Hi, welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'm going to assist you with it. Then there's the matter of lowering the amount of you have to perform some insignificant things. The amount of time you spend on minor details. You must get rid of the garbage in your life. In order for you to have more time to work on the goals you'd like to reach, or something you'd like to improve. So we'll take a look at things like saying no, for example. And figuring out how to get things out, so that you can do what you want to do. Finally, we'll discuss self-discipline. This includes items such as overcoming procrastination and stress reduction, this type of thing. The fourth section is dedicated to systems. We're going to look at personal productivity. How to regain control over your life. Then we'll talk about having a positive attitude. What can you do to make yourself feel better? What can you do to increase your happiness in your life? How can you just feel better in general? And I've got some really practical suggestions for you. To enhance your level of happiness in life, assertiveness is discussed in the second to last section. Dealing with unpleasant individuals and situations. As much as possible, ensuring that you get your way. Finally, we'll talk about how to influence others. In order to progress and flourish. Without it, you won't be able to succeed in life. Collaborating efficiently with others, so that concludes the section. As a result, this program is meant to be applied to both your personal and professional lives. As a result, you'll have a mind that is quiet, structured, orderly, and cheerful. As a result, your work performance will improve. The goal is to achieve this. Parts of this have been taught to me throughout the last 20 years to tens of thousands of people as part of a time management course I'm taking that I run on a regular basis, as well as the assertiveness training that I facilitate. This is, however, the first time everything has been gathered in one spot. I'm ecstatic because I've saved the greatest stuff for last. Among the different training classes I've taken, and cram them all in here. The explanation for the course's unusual nature, very well organized and logical, is that I began my career as an engineer. After that, I moved into management. I then went on to become a university lecturer. Finally, I had everything set up. I started my own management training company 20 years ago. As a result, I now teach all over the world. My greatest passion is assisting others to reclaim command of their lives. I hope you find my approach to be highly practical. Only items that you can genuinely do have been included. So what tests do I constantly have? Is it possible for me to employ this theory? So I'm hoping I've gotten everything in here that you are capable of. And I'm convinced that if you do, you'll succeed. Everything in this software, or at least the most of it, it will have a significant impact on the rest of your life. Like all of these video-based courses, you are free to travel at your own pace. I definitely recommend one video every day. After seeing the video, reflect on it. Maybe a little slower. Perhaps one video per week, so that you may think about what you're doing. Perhaps you should see it with someone else as well, so that the two of you may think about it. What are our plans for today as a result of this video? So, let's get this party started. So, the first step is to figure out what you want to do with your life. The importance of life goals cannot be overstated. You must have a vision for your life. Any sort of goal for where it's going to go. You must also think large. The majority of people do not have life goals. The majority of people just go through the motions of life. They simply show up for work. Maybe it's what their boss says to them. They dislike their jobs, but what other options do they have? However, the most crucial thing is to have something that comes to mind as something you'd like to do. And if you do have a goal or a dream in mind, don't be afraid to pursue it. It's a lot more likely to occur. Now I'd want to tell you about my experience. I know this because I tried it, and it worked. And if you follow my lead, it will work for you. I read a book a long time ago. It was about successful individuals. It also stated that you must have objectives. You must also write them down. And I made the decision to give it a shot. I also drew up a big, long list. I have a vision of how I want my life to be. To my dismay, it did begin with I was looking for a specific sort of vehicle, but I was still young, and that was part of what piqued my interest. I also jotted down a particular sum of money. I wanted to live in a house with a yard, a dog, and a view of the sea, play in a band. This list included a wide range of items. And I made the list, according to the book. Every morning, I should review the list. Every morning before I got out of bed, and every night before I went to bed. This went on for approximately a week. Chuckles, after that, I became tired of reading the list. I was moving house 2 or 3 years later. I discovered the list when I moved the bedside table. It had sunk to the bottom of the bedside cabinet. I also took a peek at the list. I'd written everything down, and it had all come true. Even though I'd forgotten about the list, it all came true. That's strange, I thought. What chance did that have of working? How could it have worked? And I'll explain why later. In a flash of how it could function, so my initial thinking was, how could this possibly work? Do another list, was my second thought. Let's see if this works, shall we? As a result, my second list was much shorter. And it's a lot shorter than the first one. On my second list, I simply wrote, to work at a job that I enjoy and should work only 2 or 3 days every week. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? And I simply said it. I had no idea how it would play out. I was running a factory at the time. If you're in charge of a factory, you'll never be bored. I'm planning on doing it in 2 or 3 days a week. And you're not going to like it all that much, because it's a difficult and thankless job. But that's exactly what I jotted down. And, once again, I had forgotten to write it down. I nailed it to the wall, but I'm not sure I like it. I'd grown accustomed to seeing it up on the wall. And then, 2 or 3 years later, I found myself in a new situation. Working as a lecturer at a university. It turned out to be a profession that I really enjoyed. It just took 2 or 3 days per week. And then it occurred to me that it had happened before. I've made a list, and it's happened yet again. So now I'm on my third list, which is quite lengthy. Because whatever I jot down becomes a reality. It doesn't matter what I've put on my to-do list any longer. You'd have your own list, that's the point. And you are free to do whatever you choose. And everything you jot down will come to pass. But how does it function? What makes you think it'll work? I believe there are 2 causes behind this. Why does making a list of things work? The first is your internal navigation system. You make small judgments every day. Every day, you ask yourself, should I pay attention to this person? You're probably thinking to yourself right now, should I make a list? What should I include in my to-do list? Should I make a list of huge or small items? So you make small judgments every day. That lead you in one of 2 directions. Of your life's personal objectives. Or in the opposite direction. And the majority of people lack ambition. They're merely going through the motions of life. And if you drove your car at random, where do you think you'd end up? Probably not in a pleasant environment. That, I believe, is the first step. Your subconscious will only make minor choices to point you in the right direction. The other reason is that it provides you with information. Self-control and assertiveness are 2 qualities that you should have. If you consider it, if you have a clear idea of what you want to accomplish. You'll be more focused and self-disciplined as a result. You'll be more likely to complete the task that you must complete in order to arrive. If you don't have any aims though, why bother with self-control? You might as well go eat some chips. And maybe read the newspaper. Likewise, you're more likely to. If you want to achieve your goals, you must be assertive. You're not going to let anyone get in your way. If you're committed to achieving your objectives, so, what's going to get in the way? It will either be you or someone else. That's due to a lack of self-control or aggressiveness. Goals will aid in each of these areas. However, you do not need to be concerned. To begin, here is how it will function. All you have to do now is write these objectives down. Then your subconscious will take care of everything. So that's the first order of business. Make a detailed list of your objectives. I'll have a look at this later. In greater depth in the second segment, however, before we move on to the next portion, I only require that you obtain a piece of paper. Make a list of how you want your perfect life to be. In your perfect existence, what would you like to be doing? As we showed in the previous video, it's critical to have a distinct sense of purpose in life. What are your plans for the future? In this section, we'll take a look at how can we make those objectives more effective. You've probably heard of SMART objectives, and there's a reason for that. It's actually rather cliched in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of SMART objectives. The notion that objectives must be specific, measurable, and timely. Achievable, realistic, and timed are all words that come to mind when thinking about goals. My issue with SMART is that A, it's a little boring, and B, it's a little confusing. Does not pique my interest, and really, particular and measurable are the same thing. The terms achievable and realistic are interchangeable. Aren't they too, or have I misunderstood something? So, since I dislike SMART, I'd want to make a suggestion. That your objective should be, the first S does not denote anything specific. It truly stands for scary, thus I believe your first goal will be achieved. Is the first characteristic that all of your objectives should possess, is that they ought to be a little spooky. You should be asking yourself, oh, I don't know, could I do that? Is it possible for me to accomplish that? And then there's the terror. Is that nagging sensation in your mind. It expands slightly as if to say, well, maybe I could. And as you begin to see that goal more clearly, you begin to believe that you are capable of achieving it. As a result, your objectives should be a little bit terrifying. They shouldn't be something you're used to, because those things are bound to happen. You shouldn't set a goal for yourself to be less stressed. Or, to put it another way, to be a little less unfit. Your objectives should be those that you enjoy doing, that you can conceive of. So rather than viewing less television, let's say, reading for an hour should be your goal. Or to go out every night for a half hour of exercise. Something along those lines, thus they must be upbeat. Because your subconscious wants to, I can only think about good things. As a result, quitting smoking is not a smart goal to have. Because your subconscious mind is preoccupied with smoking, so you'll have to consider what you'll do instead. What will your life be like if you don't smoke anymore? So that's the letter P, which stands for positive. The V of SPVEM corresponds to this in that it must be. It has to be able to be visualized. So, if all you want is to live in a gorgeous home, what precisely does a great house entail? Will it be a cottage, for example? Will it be a flat in the heart of the city? Will it have a garden, therefore it must be visually appealing? As well as anything like having better security, what exactly does that imply? Is there cash in the bank? Is it a skill that is in high demand all of the time? Is it beneficial to have a large number of small customers, such that it doesn't matter if you lose one? What does security look like in practice? So everything has to be visual, and the best method is to use pictures. To make something visual, take a photograph of it. Maybe even hang the image on the wall. As a result, if you wish to stay in shape, perhaps get a photograph of the ideal body. Some people bury their heads in their hands on the image of their ideal body that they would like to have, but in the back of your mind, your subconscious thinks, okay, that's what I'm going to shoot for. Alternatively, they may receive a photograph of their ideal home or something similar. After that, they'll be able to aim for something comparable. As a result, the more visual those objectives may be, the better. This is the V of SPVEM. Now, as for the E, I'm not sure what it stands for. It's the same thing whether it's emotional or exciting. I believe we should go with exciting. As a result, your objectives must genuinely thrill you. As a result, you can't merely write, "Oh well, I guess I'd best start saving for a Ferrari. Because Chris says I need to have a goal, so, unless you're crazy about Ferraris, I'll put Ferrari." Because it's your feelings, don't set that as a goal. It genuinely motivates you to act. As a result, you must be emotionally invested in your objectives. Finally, the M stands for measurable, which is the same as smart. Your objectives, in my opinion, should be measurable. So that you can be more fit or get more exercise isn't quite good enough, but it's a start. However, your ultimate goal should be being able to run a mile in less than 6 minutes, or the ability to execute 30 press-ups or something like, because that is a measurable goal towards which you may work, and you can safely conclude that I have accomplished my objective. So that's SPVEM, and now I'd like you to complete the following, is to go over the list of objectives you made previously. And simply polish them up a little more, to make them a little more interesting. Alternatively, consider how you'll visualize them, or how you intend to measure them, then revise your list of objectives to make it better. Then in the following part we'll work extra harder to achieve your objectives. So in this video, I'd like to refine a little bit more about your objectives. The majority of people's goals revolve around achieving their objectives. They want to be successful in whichever way they can. However, I believe that fun is merely a means to an end. As crucial, if not more so. It is more essential than success. In an ideal world, you'd do a little bit of both. As a result, if you succeed, however, if you aren't having any fun on the way, that isn't good. But also if you're having a good time. However, not achieving anything would be a disappointment. Be beneficial in the short run, but in the long run, it would be unsatisfactory. As a result, I believe that one of your objectives should be to have fun. Things you'd like to devote more time to, as well as achieving objectives, things you wish to do in the future, so you're having fun in the moment, as well as future success. Now, I believe the majority of people's strategy is at work, you'll accomplish success, and at home, you'll have fun. So they enjoy themselves by going out on Friday nights and partying. On Saturday night, there was a lot of partying. Then on Sunday, they're depressed. When they are required to return to work, and maybe they're having a wonderful summer vacation. But at the end of it, they're depressed. But I want more for myself and for you. So here's what I'm thinking: wouldn't it be nice if you could take pleasure in your work, as well as succeeding at work? Wouldn't it be fantastic if you could locate some kind of work that you'd like to do, and perhaps the search for a fulfilling job should start now, or else it won't be good enough to work at a job you don't like, and perhaps you might begin to consider what kind of work do you think you'd like to do. Even if work isn't highly compensated, don't worry about it, the money will take care of everything. It'll all work out in the end. Begin by considering the type of work you want to do. Would you be interested in doing so? If you have to work 5 days a week, you might as well get a career you adore while you're at it. Outside of work, there is also achievement. As a result, I'd like to enjoy and succeed in my personal history and accomplishments in your field. Being famous or wealthy in one's personal life is not the same as being renowned or wealthy in one's professional life. It's not about that or anything like that. It's just a matter of deciding what you want to accomplish. That you can claim, "I did it," and it can be taken seriously. Simply put, you should have 100 different types of fuchsia in your greenhouse. Desire to stand atop all of Scotland's tallest peaks. Or to upload a book to Amazon's Kindle, for example. But just a little something in your personal life. You may believe I was the one who did it. As a result, the goal is to have fun and succeed. At home, at work, and possibly even at school. Divide your objectives into 4 categories. However, don't get too worked up over it. Things are placed in boxes. As an example, if you're in a band, I'm not sure if that's pleasure or attain. And it doesn't really matter, the important thing is to focus on the task at hand. Put it on the internet somewhere. However, if you are dissatisfied with your current job, alternatively, if you're not accomplishing anything outside of work, then perhaps you should think about it some more. And a couple more objectives and one more notion on how to improve these objectives. Even better, it's not just a list of items. You might add 3 if you want to do anything specific. There's more to them. You may start by adding dates, so you could say I'm not only traveling to Australia but I'm also going to New Zealand. I'm not going to drive around in a camper van. Let's assume you want to do it by the end of next year. And that apprehensive sense, that's how you're thinking in your head. Okay, I guess I'll have to do it after all. I'm going to have to do something about it. As a result, that's fantastic. The second item to include is a strategy of how you're going to go about doing it. What are your plans for saving money? What are your plans for taking the time off? So all you need is a strategy for getting there. Now I'm going to make a confession, I'm a liar. I've never created a strategy for achieving my objectives. I simply write them down and they occur. So even if you don't know what you're doing, this is fantastic. I have a schedule and a plan, but I'm not sure if I want to go. If you have dates and a plan, you'd agree. They're a lot more likely to occur. The third and last point is this: I'd like you to add to your objectives is a point of concentration on a daily basis. So, perhaps spend 1 minute a day on it. Just pondering those objectives, so instead of scribbling it on a piece of paper, I'd prefer you to lose the paper after that. To pretend that you're driving every day in a camper van, I traveled across Australia. Or pretend you're in your own home that has a large garden or whatever it is. Describe your perfect world in a few words. Consider joining the band or imagining yourself as a member of it. You're in great shape and can run a mile in under a minute. In 6 minutes or less, whatever comes first. So simply 1 minute a day will enough. Concentrating on those objectives, and this will make your subconscious conscious at all times. It will be continually focusing on each of them for you and assisting you in making the correct decisions. To summarize, split your purpose. At home and at work, into enjoy and achieve. After that, make a schedule, a plan, and a budget. And then devote yourself to them on a daily basis. They'll happen after that. On the goals segment of the last video, I'd like to mention a few words regarding work objectives. And on the subject of jobs. And, first and foremost, I actually have 4 points regarding work that I'd want to make. The first is self-improvement. You're only as excellent as what's going on within your thoughts. As a result, increase your mental capacity and knowledge. Self-improvement is critical. And, to be honest, you get input into your head, it originates from 2 sources. It's a result of the individuals you associate with, as well as the novels you read. As a result, make sure you associate with nice individuals. Don't limit yourself to going to the pub every night and hang out with other depressed folks. Both positive and negative. The pub, by the way, might be good if you have a lot of positive pals who are always encouraging you. But don't spend all of your time with negative people, because that will be detrimental to your health. Similarly, if you only read dismal newspapers, you may become depressed. Or something along those lines. That's not going to end well. I don't want to put that in your thoughts. You want to read wonderful novels, right? Books that will teach you something helpful. As a result, the people you associate with and the books you read are important, are worth considering. That is the very first thing I would like you to accomplish. The second thing you should accomplish with your professional life is to avoid approaching the boss. In the end, the boss isn't all that significant. Obviously, you want a pleasant boss who cares for you and so on. However, don't focus all of your efforts on merely getting in the good books of the boss. As a result, will they continue to exist in the future? Will the boss still be there in 5 years? Are you devoting all of your attention to it? In someone who isn't going to show up? Is it also true that they genuinely care about you? You might even have a supervisor that genuinely cares about you. And that's fantastic. How about their supervisor, though? It's unlikely that your boss's boss does. Don't give a damn if you're happy. Your boss's 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 boss has no idea who you are. To them, you're most likely a number. As a result, snooping isn't a viable option. This isn't how you advance in your career. Finally, there is a third point, which is as follows: how can you advance in your career? And it is undeniably critical to develop oneself. Because if you have a wide range of abilities, you'll be able to do anything. Opportunities are more likely to come your way. Whenever they arise also, I'll be there later. To the entire concept of how to become more marketable, I'm going to speak about the promoting pair. But there's one thing I'd like to express here. Is to have a T-shaped skill set. Consider the concept of being T-shaped. Is that you're a multi-talented individual. As a result of the T's cross design, you're a generalist. You also know a lot about a lot of subjects. But there's also the T's vertical. Is that you've carved out a niche for yourself. Something you're very skilled at. Now, if you're only multi-skilled, you're out of luck. You don't have anything you're really excellent at, and you don't have anything you're really good at. I believe there is a risk. So, why do we require this individual? And you'll never be the best at anything. If you only have one specialized niche though, that's also quite dangerous. Because you never know what might happen if something changes because your area of expertise is no longer necessary. It's difficult to define a specific specialty. But what if your specialty is no longer in demand? It's possible that you'll end up in legal problems as a result. As a result, the goal is to be a generalist, but also to be an expert in one field. If you can, try to be T-shaped. And you might want to consider it for yourself. What are the extras you'll need to include? To become a more generalist? What is your specialization, by the way? Whatever you want to be a true expert in, can you tell me more about that, please? Attending seminars, reading books, etc. And become a true expert in a single field. It's possible that you'll want to have two niches. Because you'll have a backup plan if one of them suffers an injury. It's only an idea. Finally, I'd want to make the following point: participate in every training course available to you. To make your current offering better as a result, simply volunteer for each training course. You may learn at any conference anywhere. I mean, if the job pays well, take it. Also, take more of these kinds of classes. Because the more information you have in your head, the better. That has to make you feel safer. For the sake of your long-term career, this concludes this section on aims. Have a clear objective in mind and a career strategy in place. And continue to grow as much as possible. This is the second portion. The goal of this section is to eliminate the unimportant. The notion is that by reducing the amount of time we spend on each task, we would be able to do more. We can spend more time on inconsequential matters. For the most crucial matters, and we'll be looking at that in this section. From the 5 alternatives available to you in order to get rid of all the little items, so that you can begin to construct your life something you wish to construct. So this is the first video in the second portion. Lowering the importance of the inconsequential, and if your life is becoming a little too frantic, reduce is the first thing you should do. Reduce everything that you'd rather not be doing, that's encroaching on you and taking up space in your head, and preventing you from thinking about vital issues such as how to proceed. As a result, we must reduce the unimportant. If you simply want to accomplish more, and live a better life once more, you want to cut down on squandered time. Also, if you want to have even more fun, you might want to cut back on the things you don't like. So, whatever you want to get out of this program, you'll get it. The most important thing is to cut down on the amount of time we spend on it. On the unimportant aspects of life, there are just 5 ways for doing so. In this video, I'll discuss the first 2 of them. After that, we'll go on to the others. As a result, the first of the 5 choices for lowering costs is the time spent on trivial matters. Saying no is a way of decreasing the crap of life. Don't do something you don't want to do. When I was around 35 years old, I recognized that my life had become overcrowded. I was forced to do things I didn't want to do. I was working a lot of hours, and it was exhausting. There were only a few items I needed to fix when I came home. That had been harmed in some way. What happened to all the fun? I used to spend my free time mountain biking when I was in my 20s. As well as partying and performing music. By the time I was in my mid-30s, I simply didn't have any free time. And I thought to myself, this isn't life. That's when I implemented my NCP or no crap policy. I'd like you to consider it. Whenever you see an NCP parking lot, consider whether I have a no garbage policy. And I began to refuse to do things I didn't want to do. I've kept that as a goal pretty much the same. I don't always succeed, but I'm fairly good at it. I've set a goal for myself to say no to things I don't want to do. It's my life, and I don't want to waste it. I'm doing things that I don't want to do. So, the first strategy is to simply say no. You must now exercise caution at work. Since you have to do some things at work, that's just how it is. You don't want to do it. But in your personal life, I believe that saying no is crucial. And if you could simply say no for an hour a week, that would be fantastic. Because I don't want you to turn into a bullshy lunatic. Someone constantly says no to everything. However, if you only said no to 1 hour every week, you'd be fine. You'd save 50 hours each year if you did that. That's a whole week extra you could have. A week's worth of more labor. You can be forced to do things you don't want to do. So it's incredible how much it adds up to. So don't just do things because you feel obligated to. Consider declining. Just one last thought on the subject. If you say yes to something you don't want to undertake, you're setting yourself up for failure. To someone else, it makes a huge difference. Then you should probably say yes. If it'll make the other person very pleased, go ahead and do it. If it is only a minor inconvenience for you, then go ahead and do it. However, if it isn't going to make a significant impact to them, it's also something you don't want to do, then say no. After all, it is your life. And I've become increasingly confident in my ability to say no. Because of what I've realized as I've gotten older is that by the time you reach the age of 55, you will have there are just 800 Saturdays left. Do the math, and you'll find that it's about right. Of course, it's possible that it'll be considerably less than 800. This afternoon, there could be a major traffic jam on the highway. Today could be the last day, and I apologize for depressing you. But the idea is, you have to make every day count. Make every weekend and every day a success. As a result, saying no must be taken seriously. The first thing that comes to mind. The second option is a sort of half-hearted no. And this is where we're going to talk about it. At work, I believe negotiating is a much better option. Because, as I already stated, at work, you can't say no to everything. You can, however, bargain and express what you want. I can accomplish that, but it will have to wait until next week. I can do it, but I only have half an hour, or I can do it, but I only have half an hour. Alternatively, I won't be able to accomplish the other thing if I do this. Which one would you prefer? As a result, I believe that negotiation is a viable choice at work. Again, if you can save only 1 hour per week, you'll be ahead of the game. Simply agreeing to give up something, that could save you a significant amount of time. Perhaps there's a half-hour away customer. They want to meet with you from where you work. If you can get them to come to you, that would be fantastic. That would save you around a half hour each trip. That's an hour that's been saved. Alternatively, if you could merely attend a portion of a meeting, that would be ideal. I'd like to skip ahead to the first part. You might be able to save an hour by doing so. And an extra hour each week equates to a whole additional working week every year. As a result, it's great. And I believe that negotiation is a possibility at times at home. So, let's say you're under a lot of stress. To pay a visit to some relatives you don't really care about if you want to come visit or something. You can say, is it possible for us to go on Saturday afternoon? Rather than departing on Saturday morning, and you can gain 3 more hours of time as a result. Alternatively, can we go out when we visit them? And go shopping or something along such lines. As a result, you may be able to get a little more time to be able to do what you desire. Nonetheless, say yes to the visit. Those are the first two possibilities. Negotiating and saying no. I merely want you to consider how you might go about doing those. What are some things you might be able to say no to? In both your professional and personal life. Also, what are you willing to compromise on? In both your professional and personal lives, we'll also go over the other three alternatives. For the purpose of decreasing the unimportant in the following sections, now we've reached the third of my 4 videos on how to spend less time on things that aren't important, as a result of which you will be able to accomplish more. Option 4 is the subject of this video. Some things aren't being done as well as they should be. You'll recall that we've previously had to say no. Negotiating and delegating are 2 important skills to have. This following solution, on the other hand, will perform some things less well. Option 5, by the way, is about efficient systems. And we'll get back to that later. The presentation goes into great length about it. Option 4, on the other hand, is to perform some things less well. Some people now suffer from a condition known as they want to be a perfect driver, but they're just too picky. They have to be flawless in all they do. Actually, I've figured it out a little bit. It irritates me when something isn't quite right. Typos irritate me. I do occasionally rotate the tins in the cupboard. As a result, the labels are facing forward. I can't put a tin in a cupboard upside down either. With all those dreadful canned tomatoes there on their heads as a result, I am pretty picky. I also despise it when one of my shoelaces unravels. I'll have to do it all over again. However, that shoe is a little tighter than the other. So I'm too picky, and I'm well aware of it. And there's a chance I'll waste too much time mucking about with things, and this is referred to as being a flawless driver. This might be yours. And if you do happen to be a fantastic driver, it will add to your overall frazzled state. Because what happens is that you spend too much time on it. On things that don't matter. And you'll never be able to make everything perfect. So you spend your entire life working extremely hard? Attempting to achieve perfection. And that is not a good idea. And we have a tendency to believe that if we play with anything long enough, it will come to life. We have the ability to make it flawless. So, what do we accomplish by doing that? Is that we feed the ideal driver. As a result, the more food you give it, the bigger and stronger it becomes. Actually, that's the worst part. You'll never be able to satisfy it. You've just created a never-ending monster. So, if you have the ability to be an excellent driver, don't feed it in the hopes that it will go away. You'll never be able to achieve perfection. The only thing you can do is push back against it. You must tell yourself, that's enough. I'm going to leave it at that. And maybe even go to a therapist, place some upside-down tins in your kitchen cabinet. Because you're demonstrating yourself, it's the same as therapy. I am the tins lord. I am not a slave to the tins. And you're demonstrating to yourself that I'm not going to die. Because I have an upside-down tin in my cupboard. As a result, push back against your desire to be the best driver possible. And make it a point not to waste too much time on things that don't matter. Because the point of it all is to kill time on the crucial issues, the items that will lead us to our objectives, that brings us to the finish of the video. Let's go on to the next one. This concludes segment 2 of the video series. The second section is all about getting more done by devoting less effort to irrelevant pursuits, and the purpose of this video is to help you overcome your personality drivers. One of them is the be perfect driver right now. That I've already mentioned, but there are 2 other factors I'd like to bring out. They're both rather prevalent too. One of them is mine. And if you have one of these 2 drivers, you're in luck. You must be aware of it and strive to overcome it. These motorists will harm you. If you want to accomplish less in your life, they will, however, raise the level of tension that you have. As a result, it's critical to educate yourself on these topics. So we discussed be perfect. I'd also like to discuss the hurry up driver. So there's a little voice in your head like this. Quick, quick, do more, it adds. Come on, cram more into your schedule, do two things at once. While strolling down the street, pick up the phone. As a result, what this does is give you the impression that something is going on. That if you work faster, you can do more. However, similar to the Be Perfect driver, the more food you give it, the more powerful it becomes. In the end, it becomes an obsession. And you'll never be able to complete everything. You will still have a to-do list after you die. So frantically attempting to complete your tasks finally, everything is bad for you. And it will only make you feel agitated. As a result, it's critical to understand that life isn't about checking things off a to-do list. Taking the time to smell the roses is an important part of life. Taking a break to take in the scenery, to feel the warmth of the sun on your face, or to have a conversation with someone. Take some time to talk to someone. I used to believe that time management was difficult. Was about getting there with 1 minute to spare, just before the commencement of the meeting. Yes, you did a fantastic job with your time management. However, this is not the case. It's a matter of arriving 20 minutes early, as well as having some spare time simply to mingle with the other guests. That might be the highlight of your day. The most pleasurable and effective part of your day. As a result, make an effort to overcome your hurry-up driver by refusing to accept it and taking things a little slower on purpose. The third driver is the driver to please others. This is, once again, a voice in your head. If you let it, it will grow larger over time. And it's at this point that you think, what will the reactions of others be? Will they be offended? What if they aren't fond of me? As a result, persons who have the please others driver are constantly concerned about the welfare of others, and as a result, they wind up attempting to please everyone else, and are not interested in pleasing themselves. And I believe you can understand how this will also be detrimental. For the sake of your mental state, it will also make you more stressed. And, come to think of it, all of these factors contribute to stress. Trying to get everything just right, attempting to do all tasks as swiftly as possible, and being concerned about what other people would think. They're all sources of stress. I'll also offer you 2 more instances. Determine where these factors are interfering with your productivity. If you're a supervisor, they'll make it difficult for you to delegate. Because the individual who strives for perfection will believe, I can't delegate it because they aren't going to do it in the manner in which I would have done it. And they're unlikely to accomplish it flawlessly. You must, however, let it go, because it would otherwise eat up too much of your time. The person who is in a hurry will likewise be a poor delegator, since they'll think to themselves, I'm sorry, but I don't have time to explain. It's less time consuming if I do it myself. For the first time, this is correct. However, delegating pays off in the long run. As a result, the hurry-up guy is a terrible delegator. If they do delegate, they're thinking to themselves, wow, look at how slow they're going. Return it to me, and I'll complete it. The only thing that's worse, someone said to me. Then witnessing someone do something stupid is keeping a close eye on them while they do it carefully. That is, in fact, something I believe to be true. That is something I notice. However, if you're going to delegate, you must allow them to work at a slower pace. Then you'd go ahead and do it. Then there's the driver that says, please others. What is the impact on delegation as a result of this? I believe you can see what I mean. That if you have the please others driver installed, you'll be thinking to yourself, it's not a really pleasant profession to be sure. She's also a little preoccupied. I'll take care of it myself. And this is completely incorrect. You're in charge. It's something you should delegate. They'll figure something out. As a result, those 3 drivers have completely wrecked delegation. But there was something else I wanted to mention. Is about your vacations and how the drivers affect them. So consider this, the person who strives to be perfect. What are they like while they're on vacation? And the response is that everything has to be perfect. And it's all well organized, and, the bus should have arrived at 9 a.m. And it's 1:45. They also provided us a room with a bath rather than a shower. And if you're not careful, the Be Perfect driver will catch up to you. Will sabotage your vacation, and if you travel to a strange place like, take, for example, India, which is simply the most dazzling country on the planet. You'll never be able to clean up India. You'll never be able to perfect India. And the whole point is that you shouldn't. Simply give in to it. It'll all work out if you just go with the flow. So, if you're feeling a little frazzled, it's possible that, and you want to make the most of your vacation and take a little more pleasure in your personal life, the first step is to uninstall the Be Perfect driver. What will the hurry-up person be like on vacation? And the answer is that they will be departing. That's right, Taj Mahal. We've got to keep going. We have to get to the railway station by 3:15. And you shouldn't be hurrying in the first place. You should simply relax and enjoy yourself. Then spend the entire day admiring the magnificent Taj Mahal. As a result, the please others driver will likewise get in the way. In your vacations, finally, there's the please others driver. What impact will this have on your vacation? Please, 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 what should we get as gifts for our loved ones back home? I've got a few days left to spend. I'm looking for a present for someone. They will, however, most likely spend the final day together. Sanitizing the location where they've been staying, the villa needs to be cleaned. And their worst fear is that when they depart, they will be followed. The cleaners have arrived and are leaving. They're the filthy family, aren't they? Also, other folks, please. Spend a lot of time worrying about what other people think. They neglect to take pleasure in their own vacation. They might even take a vacation they don't want to take. As a result of the rest of the family, I'd want to go on a skiing vacation or whatever. As a result, the please others driver will destroy your vacation as well. All three of them will obstruct your delegation efforts. Your vacations will cause you tension. As a result, mastering these personality drivers is critical. So think about that for a moment. Have I gotten a little too much of the Be Perfect, you might wonder? Have I gotten a little too hung up on hurry up? Is it possible that I've developed an overabundance of the please others? And then you begin to push back against them. Your therapy is to either let go of the details or to focus on the big picture. If you're trying to be too perfect, if you've got the hurry up, take it easy for a while. If you have the please others ability, you can also be a little more selfish. Do what you want, when you want. Because it is, after all, your life. Now, let's look at my third alternative for getting more done by spending more money. Delegation allows you to spend less time on unimportant tasks. This is by far the most important option for workplace supervisors. It's enormous. And if you have a team of 10 individuals working for you, and you give each individual an extra hour of work per week, you'll save 10 hours every week by doing your task. That's 10 weeks out of the year. That is enormous. As a result, delegating is crucial for managers. It's still doable for regular office workers. It's possible that you can delegate tasks in a different approach on occasion. Or upwards, or hire a subcontractor, or whatever it is you want to do. As a result, I believe it is feasible for everyone. I also believe it is possible to work outside the home. You can hire someone to complete tasks for you. When you consider the value of your time, you will be surprised. If you're feeling a little frazzled, try these suggestions. Paying somebody to do things is definitely an option. For example, I have a hedge between my two houses. The road in my front garden, a huge, wacky hedge. And I know I should be cutting that, but I can't seem to stop myself. It's being put off since cutting it takes one entire day. And it'll probably cost you around £30. I could hire someone to do it for me. And it's something I should do. It's just that I'm too nasty to do it. Isn't that, however, absurd? Because life is too short to waste time mowing lawns. And as I have stated, if you only have 800 weekends, should you actually use one of those to chop a hedge? When a guy could come in and do it for £30. A day of my time is unquestionably worth more than £30. So, delegating by paying individuals to do things is definitely a good idea. Stuff is a possibility. And, last, a few ideas about delegation. To begin with, if it's a routine task, delegate it. Anything that is routine at work or in your personal life, it's a complete waste of your time. You may now be able to create a more effective method for doing it, and I'm going to do it. To be revisited later, the other option is to delegate. And if it's a regular occurrence, it should be emphasized, because it's simple to assign to you to entrust a mundane chore to someone else. And if you can automate as much as possible, that's even better. I know that's a bad word, but if you can turn it into a positive, it'll be worth it. If it's a routine process, you can delegate it to someone else. So, let's say you get a lot of price inquiries over the phone, or something along those lines. If you could make a list of everything, that would be great. The various items and their costs, such that it's simple to look it up, and you can then delegate that to someone without difficulty. As a result, everything that is routine should be assigned. Another point to consider is that if a person can complete the task in 80% of the time, they are qualified to do so. If you can't do it all yourself, delegate it. Don't wait for them to catch up to you in terms of ability, because they will never, in your mind, be as good as you. And they might not be as good as you are. We have no idea. However, if you believe they're 80%, it's feasible that they're not. They're not only as good as you, but they're also just as good. And the remaining 20% is all in your head. However, there might be a 90% chance of success and a 10% chance of failure. 10% of it is still fresh in your mind. But when they're around 80, give it to them. Clearly, if they're down to 20%, they're in trouble. Don't hand it over to them. They aren't quite ready yet. They require extra training and instructing others on how to accomplish things, so that you may later delegate it to them, is an additional task that must be completed. If they're above 80 though, give it to them. You'll be waiting forever if you wait for them to reach 100. In fact, they won't be able to reach 100 unless they work together. You're going to give it to them at some point, right? So give it to them when they're 80, and they'll keep improving at it every time. They might even go to 120 and be better at it than you are. Of course, this is wonderful. As a result, the more you delegate, the better. That brings us to the third of the 5 options. In order to do more. Option 2 will be discussed in the following video. Number 4 in a 5-part series. This is the third segment. This section is all about self-control. It's all about getting rid of procrastination. It's all about removing stress from your life. It's also about working on your body as well as your head. So, hello and welcome to video 9. This is actually the start of the third segment. The third section is on self-discipline. And this video in particular is about a significant amount of self-discipline. This is a method for overcoming procrastination. Procrastination is the act of deferring tasks. Is a genuine cause that you don't want to do. The prevalence of stress in people's lives as well as underachievement, it's critical to get rid of procrastination and be able to focus solely on the difficult jobs that you must undertake in order to achieve success in your life. As a result, we'll need to devote some time to this. Taking a look at procrastination. And I believe, 9 suggestions here. I'd like to share it with you. Really, all you want is 1 or 2 that work for you. So, take a look at my proposals. And ask yourself, could I use this with each one? Would this work for me in terms of assisting me in becoming better? When it comes to completing those difficult tasks, calling those numbers, sitting down and completing that task that you are unable to face, or whatever the case may be. Procrastination is not a problem for successful individuals. So, my first suggestion is that you write it down in your diary. Make a note of it in your calendar. Simply schedule an appointment. And the best part is you may put it in the far future, so you can think to yourself, I'll do it next month. And you've only put a couple hours in your planner. But of course, that period will pass. And when you arrive, you've set aside that time, you should go ahead and do it. This, of course, does not work for everyone. When they arrive, some individuals are irritated. Oh, I'm not going to do it, they think. They then proceed to do something else. However, when I arrive, I discover that I've got some free time on my hands. Things makes it a lot easier to do than it would be otherwise. Because I'm usually quite busy. I'm never able to do those things since I don't have enough time. I'm deferring. But if there's a gap in my schedule, I'll use it. It's a lot more likely that I'll accomplish it. It's also a promise I've made to myself. And I'm starting to feel like a failure if I've written something in my journal and then don't follow through. That one, in particular, appeals to me. My second recommendation is to make the job visible. Put it somewhere safe, like a desk, where filling out the form is a breeze, or start writing that paper. Alternatively, you may leave your running shoes and tracksuit bottoms at home. It's then really simple to go for a run. Because your brain only requires the slightest of justifications to refrain from doing anything. Oh, and I'm not sure where my sneakers are. If they're near the front door though, then you're probably going to do it. So, my second thought is to leave everything out in the open. Breaking things down into bits is the third option. If you've been putting off a large task, now is the time to do it. You simply can't face it. I'll do the first piece, tell yourself. Today, all I'm going to do is buy paint. With the purpose of adorning the front room. I'm not going to do any painting. I'm just going to pick a hue. And your subconscious considers the following: well, I suppose I could do that. That should be simple. And of course, you've already taken the first step. And odds are, once you've started, you'll want to keep going. You'll keep going and finish the job. So, break it down into bits and start with the first part. Simply get the person's phone number. You are not required to call them. That's the third technique I've devised. The next method is to begin the day with a difficult task. As a result, when you first arrive at work, or when you first wake up, consider this: what is the worst thing on my to-do list? What is it that is causing me so much anxiety? And making me feel awful about myself? And then do it. Simply perform the worst job possible. You'll feel fantastic for the rest of the day. The remainder of the day is going to be simple. Especially when compared to the first job you accomplished. So go ahead and purchase the first one. Make it a habit to do so every day. What is the worst job I've ever had? And then do it. My next thought is about energy levels. Sleep and fitness are two important aspects of life. I'm not sure about you, but however, I go through phases where I am more and less fit. And after I'm a little more physically fit, my mind is a lot sharper now. I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm done with that job. That's exactly what I'm going to do. If I'm feeling a little out of shape or exhausted, on the other hand, maybe I stayed up a little too late the night before, oh, I can't face it, I think to myself. I'll do it the next day. As a result, getting some activity and getting enough sleep are essential. Are really significant. I'm going to come back to the topic later on. When I'm more rested and fit, they do, however, have an effect on your tendency of procrastinating. The second suggestion is to give yourself a reward. After I do that large project, you could say something I'm deferring till after I've finished painting the front room, or I completed a tax form, or anything. I'm going to give myself a treat. I'm going to have some chocolate, says the narrator. Or I'll go out and get a curry, she says. Perhaps I'll go out and buy some new sneakers. Alternatively, you might watch a movie. That sort of thing. As a result, give yourself a small reward. And here's why it works so well, is because there's a war going on in your head, and your rational mind is saying, I should really fill out the tax form. No, I don't want to do that, your subconscious says. Also, if you tell yourself, I'm going to get a curry after I finish it. I don't want to, what your subconscious says. Did you say curry? I inquire. Okay, then, let's get this job done. So, much like a toddler, your subconscious can be bribed. That is why rewarding oneself is effective. However, there is one caveat: always pay up. You see, if you tell yourself, I'm going to have a curry after I finish that task. After you've finished the job, you say to yourself, actually, I'm not going to make the curry. Right, I'm never doing it again, your subconscious says. As a result, it is critical to always pay on time. And treat yourself to a treat. The next proposal I have is to appoint a taskmaster. A government nagger assigns someone to ensure that you do the task. And this could be, for example, someone who travels with you. When you go for a run, you might also hire a personal trainer or anything similar. It's possible they're just a friend. Alternatively, you may remark to a coworker, if I don't finish it by Friday, I'll be fired. I'm footing the bill for lunch. The subconscious, of course, is thinking, so I guess I'd best get started. I'm not going to buy him lunch. Obtaining an official nagger is the next step. And possibly bribing them with a prize can be really effective. Visualize the future is my next thinking. Have a mental image of what you want to achieve. Think how fantastic it will be if you go ahead and accomplish it. Alternatively, consider how horrible it will be if you do nothing. Assume you have a nice front room. Everything is tastefully designed. And you're pondering the question, why hadn't I thought of it years ago? This is fantastic. Consider what would happen if you didn't fill out the tax form. Then you put it off till the day before it's due, and that is the day that your PC fails. When you're seriously unwell, or your animal is seriously ill, and you don't bother to fill it out, as a result, you'll have to pay a substantially higher tax payment. And it's possible that this is enough to make you think, oh wow, I really need to get started on that. As a result, create a mental image in your head. Either how good or how horrible it will be. My final strategy for overcoming procrastination is to which one do you think you prefer? Is to jump right in and begin. Just dial that number. Before you've made up your mind about what you're going to say. Start filling out the form now. Start composing that report now. At the very least, you've started. So get right in and get going. So the most important thing is to go over them again. Could take notes while watching the video now. Pick which strategy you're going to use as a personal strategy for overcoming procrastination. It's critical that you do so. In this video, I'd want to discuss about taking care of your body as well as your mind. So, first and foremost, take care of your body. In a previous video, I discussed the importance of exercise and sleep. This is quite crucial. I go through spurts of exercise, laughs. So the first step is to find some form of physical activity. That you enjoy. Running is something I despise, but cycling is something I enjoy. So look for something you enjoy. Also, consider the time of day. That you'll do it on a frequent basis. Are you going to do it during lunch? Or possibly before breakfast in the morning, or when you return home from work? Also, set aside a regular day of the week. Maybe 2 or 3 days every week. A place where you go to the gym or anything similar. Also, see if you can find a companion to accompany you. And carry out the workout. That is extremely beneficial. So get your exercise in order. That is a fundamental point. Every successful person engages in some type of physical activity. It is quite crucial to do so. In your thoughts, you'll feel better. You'll be more confident in yourself. It is critical to do so. Then there's the issue of sleep. This is something I'm not very good at. I prefer the evenings because I am a night owl. I despise getting out of bed. However, I am wide awake in the evening. My best time is probably about midnight. I have a habit of staying up late watching television. Or whatever I'm doing on my computer, Facebook, etc. Then the next day, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I really need to get to bed early tonight. Then it's the same thing all over again. As a result, we'll have to overcome this. And I believe the first is to understand that staying up late is pretty seductive. You have the tendency to believe that you can get away with it. You can do it for 1 or 2 nights in a row if you want to. Then you begin to believe that it doesn't matter. But, of course, it adds up. Then, one night, when you go to bed early, it doesn't have much of an impact, and you begin to wonder, it doesn't seem to make much of a difference, but it does. If you can go to bed early a few nights in a row, that's great. You'll feel a lot better. As a result, it's critical to do so. If television is your poison, then figure out a technique to avoid staying up late watching TV. Probably the best thing to do is to simply set the recorder and retire to bed, because you'll most likely decide the next day you weren't going to watch the rest of the show anyway. However, there are alternative options available to you. Not looking at what's on is akin to not looking at what's on. You're not if you don't look at the timetables. Surfing the channels is definitely not a good idea. I'm just looking for something remotely enjoyable. Only watch shows that are relevant to you. So figure out a technique to avoid watching TV, so you can get more sleep. So, get some exercise and get some sleep. It's critical to take care of your body. Now that you've taken care of your body, it's time to take care of your mind. There are several options available to you. First and foremost, I would advise you to read. As I previously stated in this presentation, that all of the world's knowledge is contained in books, it's also critical to read literature. Read literature about your field of employment. So, if you're a salesperson, invest some time in reading sales literature. Even if only once a year, so that you can outperform the rest of the salesmen. If you're a manager, read management literature, for example. However, when it comes to taking care of your mind, make an effort to relax. Reading, on the other hand, is a great method to distress. Because as you read, you draw information from the book at the rate you desire. It's not like watching TV, which slams facts in your face with an excessively slow or excessively quick speed. So, reading is a crucial element of distressing, in my opinion. But I've compiled a list of my top 7 stress-relieving tips to go through right now. The first is to jot down everything. Make a daily to-do list of what you want to accomplish today, as well as keeping a comprehensive list of everything that you must complete. At some point you won't have to be concerned about forgetting anything. So make a list of everything. If you're having trouble falling asleep, and you're still thinking, oh, I forgot to call that guy tomorrow, you also have a small pad by your bed. That's a telltale indicator of anxiety. It's a sure sign that you should jot down everything. Because if it's written down, it'll be remembered. It will not be circulating in your mind. When you're attempting to sleep, that's the first one I've done. The second is to receive adequate rest and exercise. That has previously been discussed. My third option is to say no. This is a fantastic technique to lessen the amount of stress in your life. To refuse to do something you don't want to do, you shouldn't be doing this. That has previously been discussed. My fourth point is that I do not multitask. Don't try to juggle multiple tasks at the same time. Simply make a list of all of them. After that, do them one by one. Multitasking is not in the human mind's design. We perform poorer as a result of the stress. If you have 4 5-minute jobs to do, if you do them one at a time, it will take you 20 minutes. You can hop between them if you jump between them. And you're always attempting to do 2 things at once, you'll wind up wasting an hour and not completing them. As a result, there will be no multitasking. Instead, make a list. Beating procrastination is number 5 on my stress list. That has previously been discussed. Don't be a procrastinator. Simply take the worst job on your list and complete it. Allowing a time buffer is number 6. Don't put things off till the last minute. If you know it'll take you half an hour to get there, plan accordingly. Do not leave half an hour before your scheduled arrival time. Set aside an hour and a half. If a meeting is going to last an hour, plan accordingly. Don't let your parking meter run for an hour. Fill up your parking meter for 2 hours. Pay the extra 20p so you don't have to worry about it. Of having to return quickly. Always include a time buffer in your plans. The worst that can happen is that you'll be late. But that's fine since you'll be able to get fill-in jobs. There are things on your phone that you should know about. An iPad or a laptop are also viable options. You have the ability to work. You are welcome to read a book. You have the option of having fill-in work with you. That will be a terrific way to put that extra time to good use. Allow for time buffers in every situation. Last but not least, assertiveness is an anti-stress strategy. When you're dealing with people who are causing you stress, if you have chatty folks on your hands, tell them, actually, I don't have the time. Right now, I'd like to have a long conversation. If there are folks who irritate you, write them down. Spend no time with them. So, when it comes to people, be assertive. Later in this program, I'll return to that topic. Finally, I'd want to share one last thought with you. About taking care of your body and mind. It's a strange one, but it's about meditation. Meditation might be something to think about. Many of the people I've been talking to have told me, I meditate, and I'm thinking, oh, sure, I meditate, and I'm thinking. I had no idea you meditated. It is, in fact, a quite common practice. And it appears to be becoming more common. It is no longer considered strange. As a result, I'd really consider meditating. There are numerous advantages. If you ask people what the advantages of meditation are, they will tell you that it has a lot of them. Well, it's whatever you want it to be, they frequently say. Or something along those lines. It'll make you more grounded, they claim. Whatever the hell that implies. All I can say is that I have personally discovered there are 2 advantages to meditating. I don't do it as frequently as I should, but I do it occasionally. One of the advantages is that it makes me more creative. After I've completed it, I get a burst of, it sounds strange, but it has nearly creative power. It's as if my brain has rebooted. When you restart your computer, you know how it feels. It operates quite quickly and smoothly. As a result, it's like to restarting your mind computer. As a result, it inspires me to be more creative and dynamic. And that's one of the advantages I've experienced with it. But there's also the fact that I find it has helped me to be more self-disciplined. It's helped me gain more control over my thoughts. So, when it comes to impatience, I can now simply think, actually, I'm not going to be irritated by it. And I can simply silence the little voice in my head. There's a long line, mutters the narrator. I'm not in the mood to wait. As a result, it has given me more control. Notwithstanding the nagging voice in my head, and I believe that's a fantastic idea. So that's what I've gotten out of it. However, I strongly advise you to try meditation. I don't have time to go into great depth right now. It's up to you how you do it, but it's essentially simple. All you have to do now is find a quiet room with no distractions. Sit on a chair that isn't particularly comfy. You don't want to fall asleep, right? Simply sit upright in a regular hard chair. Most likely, you've closed your eyes. And then sit for 15 minutes. Set a 15-minute timer and think about nothing. Actually, thinking about nothing is the difficult part. What will happen if you just sit there? In a quiet room with your eyes closed is that your head will be flooded with ideas. However, if you simply allow them to fade away, repeat to yourself, I'm not going to get involved in all of these ideas. And just wait for them to go away. Then you'll notice that the little voices have become louder. Your thoughts will eventually calm down in your head. Then the timer will go off. Then you'll be like, wait, what? Is 15 minutes the time limit? It's almost as if you've slept off, but you're not. Your mind has been numb for a while now. You've sped through the 15-minute mark. So 3, 4, or 5 minutes at most. Expecting the clamor to die down, then the next 10 minutes just fly by. Now, consider what some people are doing to silence the critics. They have a chant in their heads. Things they repeat over and over. Calm, 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 you may simply say. That's something you could keep repeating. And every time a voice says anything like, "What about tomorrow's meeting?" Calm. And it will just serve to drown out the whispers in your thoughts. Till the 15 minutes are up and gone. And you might think at the time, so, I've just been in this chair for 15 minutes. I've been sleeping with my eyes closed, but you haven't. Since you'll be energized, you'll be able to maintain mental control. If you could do it, 15 minutes per day would be ideal. At a convenient time of day. If you can locate a sufficiently calm location, I strongly advise you to try meditation. It's absolutely fantastic. So, it concludes the video. Consider taking care of your body, your mind, and your spirit. Meditation and stress reduction are two methods for lowering stress. So, hello and welcome to video 11. And this one is all about understanding who you are and being who you are. If you want to be the most successful person you can be, if you want to live a bright life, you must be true to yourself. You're hiding bits if you're not yourself. And you're turning things off, you're going to degrade yourself. If you aren't the whole you can only diminish yourself. And there's an idea that I really appreciate about this. The window is known as the Johari Window. Its name comes from the fact that it was created by Johari. Joe and Harry, two guys named Joe and Harry, they simply made it sound mysterious and oriental. The Johari Window was the name given to it. And I'd want to explain that to you right now. First and foremost, it appears that we all have a blind area. Other people are aware of some aspects of our lives that we are completely unaware of. And the issue is, do you really want to find out? What do you have in your blind spot? If I said, I've done my homework on you. I've inquired of all your acquaintances about you, I now know everything there is to know about what they think of you. Do you want to find out what's hiding in your blind spot? And, come to think of it, in your blind region, there will be some nice things, which would be interesting to learn about, and it's good to be aware of. You might even have abilities and skills that you aren't aware of. There will very certainly be some negative consequences. Also in your blind spot, do you want to know more about them? And in fact, I would answer yes. You should be interested in learning more about them. Because you might be able to do something about it. So, if your friends believe you talk too much, for example, I believe it would be beneficial to be aware of it. And take action to address it. The first step is to identify your blind spot. By obtaining input from others. How could I improve if I asked them? The Johari Window's second section. Is the information you have about yourself. Others, on the other hand, are unaware. And this, my friend, is your ruse. The things you keep hidden beneath your mask, so it's possible that you're incredibly irritable with others. You don't tell them though. You keep it hidden under your mask. Perhaps you're afraid of something. Meetings make you nervous, or anything along those lines. You keep it hidden under your mask. Should you keep some things hidden beneath your mask? You shouldn't, according to Joe Luft and Harry Ingham. They suggest you should keep your facade as low as possible. The most effective people maintain a low profile. And, come to think of it, why are you hiding wonderful things behind your veneer if you have them? That's really absurd. They should be visible. If you're hiding something nasty behind your mask, you should really try to get rid of such negative things. Get rid of your rage or your fear. Or whatever the case may be. In fact, I'm going to visit you. Later in this session, we'll talk about negative emotions. So, in a perfect world, you'd have nothing under your mask. And you will simply be yourself. You'd be brave enough to just be yourself. What would happen if no one wore a mask? What if everyone said exactly what they were thinking? And of course, we can't just walk around being disrespectful to strangers. However, there is a place where no one wears a mask. Norway is the name of the country. And as a half Norwegian, I have some knowledge of the country. My mother is Norwegian. She doesn't put on a show. She expresses herself in whatever way she sees fit. And that's pretty much how Norway is. It's fantastic when people say what they think. It performs admirably. If someone doesn't like the sweater you're wearing, you can always change it. They'll simply state, "I don't care for that sweater." So the good news is that you won't have a blind spot. If you happen to be in Norway, you'll figure it out. And if everyone despises your sweater, there's nothing you can do. After that, you can make a selection. You may either say, "Well, I'm still going to wear it," or "I'm not going to wear it." Well, okay, I'm not going to wear it. However, everyone is aware of their position. That is, in fact, rather brilliant. The Norwegians, on the other hand, believe the British are amusing. Because their facades are so large, and their blind spots are so large. As a result, I believe it is possible to live a fulfilling life. Where you're essentially yourself. That's something to consider. And of course, if you lower your facade, you'll look better. What will most likely happen is that you'll also lessen your blind spot. So make an effort to live a life that reflects your true self. Now you know everything there is to know about, and other folks are aware that it is just out there. It is visible to everyone. In this idea, this is referred to as the arena. So, let's pretend I'm a stickler for details. Everyone else knows I'm a stickler for details. Then there's the arena, which is fantastic. Because I can ensure that I concentrate on it, they are able to provide me with that type of labor, and it is satisfactory. The issue arises when they are unaware of the situation. Or I'm not aware of it. As a result, the more items in the arena, the better. And of course, if there are negative aspects, so, let's suppose I have an extremely short fuse. However, I am aware of this, as is everyone else. Then we'll be able to work around it. So we can make advantage of my assets. We'll figure out a way to work around my flaws. As a result, the more people in the arena, the better. We don't want things buried behind facades and blind spots. If you ask for opinions on your blind area, you can learn more about it. And if you open out more, you can lower your facade. What will occur is that you will investigate. Entering a place you're unfamiliar with, nobody else is aware of it. So, what's inside? Is there any aspect of yourself that you are unaware of? Additionally, no one else is aware of? Yes, is the response. It's the untapped potential within you. As an astronaut, this is you. Or as President of the United States of America. So you don't think you'll be able to pull it off. Nobody else believes you can pull it off. However, you are capable of doing the task. As a result, the notion is that by lowering your blind area, you'll be able to see more things. You'll have to move your facade, and you'll have to move it. Explore a place that hasn't been explored before and learn new stuff that you had never idea you were capable of. It does, however, necessitate a certain amount of bravery. To reduce your blind spots, you must have the bravery to do so. And solicit feedback. It takes guts to reveal your true self, and it takes courage to do so. As well as to disclose your true self. However, you must possess this courage. You must be courageous. Because, at the end of the day, that's the best version of yourself you can be. You can only degrade yourself by not being your true self. So I'd just like you to think about it for a moment. And to consider how I may lessen my blind area. What kind of feedback am I likely to receive, and from whom? Also, when and what are you going to reveal? How are you going to slim down your appearance? When are you going to do it? Welcome to the fourth section, which is about systems. About becoming incredibly organized. As a result, we'll go through topics like lists, master lists, daily lists, and other such items. We're going to browse through diaries. We'll look into cleaning up your surroundings. Your home as well as your working environment. We'll look at how to avoid difficulties. We're going to look at the pair of promotions again. So, let's go on to the fourth component of this program. Is to reorganize your systems. And this is the first video, which is all about lists. When I do training sessions, I ask participants a series of questions. If they enjoy making lists, as they almost always do, we adore lists, of course. So, if you don't like lists, this is ideal. However, I'm afraid you'll still have to complete these tasks. Also, one thing I've learned about lists is that I believe the most important point I want to express is that you'll need two different kinds of lists. You'll need a master list as well as a daily list. And you'll require both of them. As a result, the master list is a massive list of everything you're going to do at some point in the future. You have no idea when, yet everything is written down in one location. You'll need it to make sure you don't forget anything. And that you are not concerned about whether or not you've left something out. It will also help you relax because it isn't going to be as horrible as you imagine. And when you take a look at the big picture, you'll notice that it's a large list. Some of those things, aren't really that important. Some aren't particularly significant. As a result, you'll be able to chip away at it. So it's nice to have a view. A list of everything you're going to do. The other list you'll need is a daily one. So, each day, I'll make a very small list of things to do. At most, 10 objects, most likely only 5 or 6, or even less, than you're going to do today. A daily list and a master list are required. Some people now do the following: they just have one unified list. However, the issue is that it is incomplete. The problem with that is that you'll never finish it. It becomes too gloomy. You can also cherry pick. As you scroll down this long list, you say to yourself, is it better for me to learn Italian or call Fred? Actually, I'll just call Fred because it's more convenient. As a result, learning Italian is never completed. As a result, you'll require a long list of items that you're going to do at some point. And a daily to-do list for today alone. What would their bodily form be? So, here's the big list. It could be a piece of paper, for example. I believe it may be hung on the wall. It's nice to have it hanging somewhere. Because if it's in the back of your diary, it'll be forgotten. It's possible that you'll forget about it and never look at it again. I've written mine on a whiteboard. Because I'm a little down, actually, I've got mine on a whiteboard as a mind map. So, I've got house branches and vacations and work, and in other things I'd like to film. I've even drawn it all out as a mind map. That looks great on my whiteboard. It could, however, be in an app on your phone. Whatever you'd like, so there you have it, your master list and your daily list. It might be recorded in your diary once more. Written into your phone's diary section. Alternatively, you may have an app. It makes no difference what you do. I believe that a piece of paper is the most effective method to finish your daily to-do list, because you just finished it. It's as simple as that. However, whichever system works best for you, for both your master and daily lists. After that, you can move stuff about. From the master to the daily to the weekly to the monthly to the annual to the annual to the annual to the annual to. So, let's say you've got a master list of people on it. You'll learn Italian, you won't be able to transfer it. Can you get all of Italian across? What am I going to do today? I'm thinking of learning Italian. What you can do though is say, I'm going to get a CD from Amazon today to listen to. I'm either going to read the first chapter in my car or in my car. Teach Yourself Italian is a book that teaches you how to learn Italian. As a result, you begin to eat away at those large responsibilities. By transferring them from the master list to the daily schedule, your daily list must now be updated on a daily basis. Some people only do one thing at a time. When they're busy, they make a daily list. Oh, I'm completely buried, I need to make a to-do list. And they do it, and it's very effective. They work their way through the list that day, getting a lot done. Then, the next day, they believe, well, I don't have much to do today. I don't require a daily to-do list. They should, however, continue to do the daily list. Because that's when it'll truly start to shine. They've gotten rid of anything little. They are now free to move. Bit by bit, some of the major issues are being addressed. So that's when you begin nibbling to the truly significant and significant issues which you have on your master list. So, every day, make a list. Even if you don't have anything to put on it because you can transfer items from the master list finally, what time of day is it? Should you make a daily to-do list, last but not least, I would advise before going to bed, or at the end of the day prior to your return home from work. It is something that some individuals enjoy doing first thing in the morning. When they first come to work, or when they first wake up, that's alright with me. I'm not a morning person. However, when you initially start working, you can be swept away by a major problem. Instead of completing your to-do list, so here's what I like to do. It's something I like to do at the end of the day. Only the shrapnel that hasn't been finished, I slam it all down on my to-do list, which gives me a pleasant feeling of accomplishment. I need a sense of completion at the end of the day, so that I can relax. Return home, secure in the knowledge that everything has been recorded. Ready for the following day. So I don't have to worry about anything when I go to bed. I'm not sure if I've forgotten anything. So it's the daily to-do list that I make at the end of each day. So that concludes the section on lists. A master list, a daily list, and a weekly list. You must have both, and your daily list must be updated on a daily basis. We'll examine into diaries in the next part. So in this video, I'd like to discuss diaries with you. Or as we call it in America, your calendar. There isn't really a good word for it, but it's there. Because a diary may say, "Dear diary, today I did this," or "Dear diary, today I did that," or "Dear diary, today I did it," could also serve as a record of your actions. And a calendar could be, useful. Photographs of beautiful mountains with all of the dates written on them. But whatever you want to name it, it's there. This is the place where you keep track of your appointments. So, first and foremost, your calendar should incorporate both home and work. Some people don't like to think about work, according to one diary. When they're at home, but if you despise your job, then I believe you should look for a new employment. However, you must have them both in the same location. Since you need to know if you've made an appointment with the dentist, do you have to leave the house or start work early? Because, whatever it is, your daughter is performing in a ballet show. As a result, you'll need to keep track of both your personal and professional life in one calendar. It has to be with you at all times. Whether it's a small paper book or a Filofax, now is the time to get organized. When I had one, I used to adore my Filofax. I'm now using a Google Journal, so I'm not sure if it's computerized or not. So that's all I've got on my phone. By the way, the reason I do that is because it was quite traumatic for me to lose my Filofax. However, I now have it as a Google Diary. Which implies it doesn't matter if I lose my phone. It also means that I can check my diary on my laptop. On my iPad, on my laptop, on my desktop PC, wherever you are using your business computer. It also implies I'll be able to look for items. I can also have repeated events and things. As a result, I believe that a digital diary is the best option. However, it must always be with you, no matter what you do. Synced with your mobile device, so that's incredibly significant, and I'd say it's a tiny tip. Is to set aside a half hour every day for yourself. This is an opportunity for you to think for a moment. Or to become more organized and ahead of the game. Try to figure out what's causing the issues in the first place. This sort of thing. Don't cram your calendar to the brim with appointments. However, schedule a half-hour appointment with the most important person in your life, which is you. And all of this will add up, and this will assist you in moving forward. In general, you don't want your calendar to be completely full. It would be nice if it was roughly half full of appointments, with a maximum of 50%. And keep half of it for free, but that's my first offer. Only 20% of my time would be free, which I would resent. Because if your diary is entirely full, you won't be able to do anything else. When you arrive to that day, you'll know what's going to happen. What will happen is that extra items will arrive. Emergencies are certain to arise. You'll have to cancel everything after that. That should never have happened. Insert it into the mix in the first place. Another thing that will occur is that you'll begin to be late, so, what happens if your schedule is entirely booked? Is that if one appointment is late, the others will be late as well. It'll make everyone else late. Then you're going to have a lot of problems. As a result, you must always leave room in your diary for new ideas. To deal with the unexpected events that occur, what this means is that if you have a few of hours to spare. If you don't have any spare time in your calendar, tell them you only have 1 hour. Can we meet up on Friday? Someone asks. I'm afraid I'm short on time. Despite the fact that you're staring at the clock, because by the time you arrive, that hour will have passed, or you will require it. For items that will come up during the course of the day. You must tell them, don't commit to that last hour. I'm afraid I don't have any time available right now. How about Monday? You're not lying if you say you'll just postpone them to the next day. When you arrive, that moment will have passed. As a result, save your time. And make arrangements for the future. Just a few of final thoughts on the diary now. One is the unbroken chain, and by this I mean, is if someone promises to help me in some way. I inquire as to when, and if they respond, I'll finish it by next Thursday. I've marked Thursday in my calendar. Louise has promised me this, so I write in on Thursday. Because then I'll have her, and she won't be able to flee. And when Thursday arrives, I'll have a look to see if she did it. I can say, if she hasn't. So, why haven't you followed through on your promise? When am I going to get it, and what happens if she leaves? Sorry, I'll finish it by Monday, I'll move it to Monday. That is why it is known as the unbroken chain. It just keeps going, there is no way out till she eventually does it. And of course, what she learns from my interactions with her is that she can get away with not doing it with some people, however, because it is written in my diary, I will remember it. As a result, she'll be more likely to help me. What happens, by the way, if Thursday arrives? When she comes around, she's already done it. And the answer is that I appreciate her doing it. In a sense, she has 2 reasons to do it. If she accomplishes it, she will be praised. If she does not, she will be chastised. She'll be hassled if she doesn't do it. And I'll have to reschedule it. And she'll never be able to flee, however. Most people believe that if you follow through on your promises, you will be successful. Why should you bother when they don't even thank you? They won't notice if you don't deliver on your promises. So what's the point of bothering? So, in my diary, I have an unbroken chain. I appreciate it when they do it, and I thank them when they do it. Finally, my final thought about diaries is this: make a list of everything, including commitments. I get a date if someone promises me anything. I record it in my diary, but if I make a promise to them, I keep it. I also write it down in my diary. Or on my master or daily to-do list, however, I generally pick when I'm going to do it. I wrote it down in my diary. As a result, everything is documented in some way. Everything is added to one of 2 lists, the master list or the sub-list. So there we have it, the daily list or the logbook. That's all there is to know about diaries. We've only been looking over past videos thus far. I'm not interested in lists or diaries, instead, I'd like to convey something. Regarding the physical working environment, it's critical to keep your workspace in order. My workstation becomes increasingly cluttered over time. I also clean it up every now and then. And it feels great when I clean it up. And that is proof that it has been causing me stress. Until that point of time when you clean it up, it feels great. Because when you have a lot of stuff piling up on your desk, it's difficult to focus. It genuinely bothers you. It's on its way, you haven't done me yet, you know. Take a look at me, I'm still standing. It irritates you. So keep your desk in order, clean it up, and stay organized. You'll feel better and accomplish more. In addition, a cluttered desk projects a negative impression. As a result, your workstation will be visible to others at work. And they'll assume you're a disorganized individual, as well as the fact that you aren't truly coping with your job. You don't want to convey the impression that you're having trouble. Must do your work since you aren't the only one who isn't doing it. I'm getting a promotion. As a result, keeping your workplace tidy is vital for your image. As well as a mental condition, declutter your home in the same way. For a healthier mental state, make a thorough inspection of your home and get rid of as much as you can. Since you'll be able to tell, you'll simply feel more liberated to think. If you aren't suffocated by your belongings. As a result, the environment in which you work is quite crucial. Another thing I'd like to remark about this is that it's all well and well to have objectives and ambitions, but however, in an ideal world, you would make those visible. As a result, your working environment would consist of everything is on display. So you'd probably have your master list pinned on the wall. It could be in the shape of a mind map, for example. If you're working on a large project though, you'd most likely have a mind map for that too. So simply have a large number of lines and complete all of the duties. It's all laid there for you to see. It's critical that it's the back wall. You could even wish to use a Gantt chart. Gantt charts are a completely different topic. However, I believe that in order to be in charge of your life, you must. If your life is full with projects, and it will be because any progress is welcome, every change you want to make is a project. If you're going to be the one in charge of it, you'll need to create a Gantt chart. So I'll show you a Gantt chart as an example. I've put it up on the screen for you to look at, but as you can see, that's all there is to it. Is the task list on the left and the dates on the right. Then there are timers for when you'll do what. What's more, having everything planned out is a huge plus. Like this is that you know you'll be able to finish it by the deadline. You don't have to be concerned about anything. Whether you'll be able to make it or not, since it is clear that you can. You've organized everything into a good plan. You may even color in the bits as you're doing it. So you can check if you're sticking to the plan. I believe your working atmosphere is several Gantt charts should most likely be included. Colored in on the wall so you can see yourself. Making progress toward your life's objectives. In this movie, you'll see I'd like to discuss the pair of promotion. P, E, A, and R are the letters of the alphabet. What is the significance of promotion? For some people, it is really significant. They are quite eager to start the next job. I'm not persuaded that climbing the aforementioned tree is a good idea. In life, the answer is always yes. You could choose to work for yourself. Alternatively, you might like to do a great, simple job and engage in a variety of activities outside of work. Nonetheless, a promotion may bring you joy. Only to gain another level, to do a job that pays a little bit more, and where you may have more control over what happens, you have the ability to make a difference. So, if you want to advance in your career, these 4 items come highly recommended by me. As a result, the P in pair stands for positivity. Nobody wants to work with a nasty person and is always whining. As a result, maintaining a good mindset is critical. And I'll go into more detail on this in a later segment. But make sure that while you're at work, you're dressed appropriately. That you're not wasting your time whining, moaning, and complaining. Maintain an optimistic outlook at all times. When you're given a task to complete, you should take it seriously. Ugh, I'm a little busy, don't say. But say something like, yeah, terrific, I can do that. If they're considering elevating you to their level, as a result, you'll be working with them more frequently. Make sure the bosses think of you as a positive person. The letter E of easy to work with is represented by the pair. And it's simple to work with. It's actually low maintenance. I'm familiar with a personal trainer. He also states that if you book him, I need a parking spot, after all. I also require a pen in each color. A whiteboard and a flip chart are also required. And you think to yourself, I'm not going to bother with it. I'd like to hire a personal trainer. Somebody is just going to show up and do it? At work, it's the same. You don't want to be a high-maintenance type of person. As a result, be easy to deal with. You don't want to be bombarded with questions. And things, and checking all the time simply say, yes, I'll take care of that. And I believe there is a portion of simple to deal with. Is also quite easy to contact. As a result, always pick up the phone and respond to your emails. Simply be efficient so that you are easy to work with. That concludes PAIR's second installment. Do you consider yourself to be easy to work with? You could also inquire of your co-workers. The A of the PAIR is now in command. So when I say looking in control, I mean having a neat desk. As well as being well organized. When you say you'll call back, you don't. Emails and voicemails are always returned the same day. So that it appears as if you're always on top of things. Make a fantastic voicemail message. Something along those lines: I'm sorry, but I'm unable to take your call at this time. However, I'll call you back the same day. Then you actually call them back the next day. Then you appear to be completely in control. So far, I've kept a clean desk, left a pleasant voicemail message, and am constantly responding. That's what it looks like when you're in command. If they're thinking to themselves, can I promote this person? You should be able to easily dominate your existing position. If you're going to get promoted, haven't you? If you're having trouble in your current employment, they will never promote you. That is what the letter A in PAIR stands for. Finally, the R of the PAIR is trustworthy. Always follow through on your promises. And you'd think this is a no-brainer. However, I've discovered over the years that if you consistently follow through on your promises, it immediately places you in the top 10% of people. Because most people don't follow through on their commitments. So, if you say you'll do something, be sure you follow through. And I think, honoring your promises is a subset of that. Is being punctual. As a result, always be on time. When you go to meetings or whatever it is that you do, always arrive on time to the events. However, you must also do your assignment on time. If you say the report will be ready by the end of the week, you should follow through. Ensure that it is received by the end of the week. It'll take whatever it takes. As a result, always keep your promises and be on time. As well as always completing tasks on schedule. In addition, if you're dependable, that's yet another clue that you're easily deceived. Elevated to a more demanding position, and the only way to be truly dependable is to jot down everything. As we saw in the preceding section, it's critical to keep track of everything. Master lists, daily lists, and so forth. So write it down as soon as you agree to something. They'll see you jot it down too. And they'll believe he's a trustworthy individual. I admire how he keeps track of everything. So, as soon as you've agreed on something, write it down. Make a strategy for how you'll accomplish it. If necessary, it might be divided down into a Gantt chart. And stick to your game plan. So there you have it, the PAIR of advertising. You might want to go over that again. And see if there are any steps you can take to help. To make oneself more PAIR-shaped, to put it that way. There's still one more segment to go. On the course's efficiency section, it's also about what to do about it. Repeating issues and annoyances, hence repeaters. That'll be our next topic. As a result, this is the final video in the efficiency portion. It's all about difficulties that come up again and again. There's no need to have a condition that keeps recurring. Because after the first time you get that problem, you should figure out what's causing the problem. And nip it in the bud so it doesn't happen again. It's amazing, everywhere I've ever worked, there are certain things that they keep repeating. They keep running out of, I don't know, they need toner for the printer, or they'll run out of paper. Or they can't seem to figure out where someone is. And then there are those whose car refuses to start. Then you wonder to yourself, why don't you fix it? So, whatever the issue is, if it occurs again, you've got to get it right. First and foremost, if you can't nail it, you must have a system in place. So that you can cope with the problem that keeps coming up. If you have a persistently phoning consumer, if you're going to ask for information, make it as simple as possible. As a result, you'll be able to get there right away. Or if you have to send an email on a frequent basis, Simply keep a copy somewhere with the same language. You can cut and paste into it. So, your initial reaction is it possible for me to just have a system so that I can do it? By the way, it's related to that. Is that everything should have a home so that it can be found. So you don't want a problem like this to recur. Looking for a pair of scissors, always keep your scissors in the same spot. And what if you had to buy each person their own pair of shoes? Do that so they don't have to keep borrowing. If necessary, spend some money. However, everything is in its proper position, so that you can locate it. But, as I previously stated, even better than having a system is having a plan. To find the source of the problem and prevent it from happening again, asking the 5 whys is the greatest approach to do so. Just ask 5 people. Approximately 5 times, inquire as to why. So, let's say someone makes a blunder. Rather than simply reprimanding them, which would make you feel nice, but would do nothing to help you, why did they make that mistake, you might wonder. Maybe they weren't properly taught. So all you have to do is train them, which you should do. But consider this, why weren't they trained? It's possible that we don't have any. There isn't even a training plan. So, why don't we have a training strategy? Nobody is in charge of training, after all. So, perhaps we should appoint someone. Then you're in control of training. You see, the idea is that you dig and dig. Until you discover the true reason. By the way, this is generally management. That's why management doesn't always want to know why. It's much easier to simply scold someone. However, it is far better to obtain to the source of the problem and resolve it. So, what are you waiting for? Ask why and get to the bottom of it. Also, don't allow problems to recur. We used to have an issue with it. We used to go down to our beach bungalow on a regular basis. That we obtained from the city council, and on occasion, when we arrived, my wife would discover that she couldn't get into the beach hut because she didn't have the key. Oh no, the key is hidden among my other keys. So, that's just absurd. Isn't it frustrating to have that as a recurring issue? So, the first time this happens, you must consider the following. Is it necessary to make a new key? Is it necessary to maintain a spare key in the car? So that we always have a key when we arrive? Should we keep a key hidden? In one of those key-hiding rock formations. In order for us to always be able to find the key. But don't let the same mistake happen again. In the event that your printer's toner runs out, then have a backup and put it somewhere safe. So that when you're out, you can use the spare before replenishing. By the way, it's worthwhile to have a good computer. For everything that matters, there is a supply replenishment system. We ran out of tomato ketchup the other day. I can't believe what I'm hearing. There was no tomato sauce on our fish and chips. Something had gone awry somewhere in the replenishing system. We'd used up all of our resources. Now that I've obtained a spare bottle, I'm ready to go. I have a jar of tomato sauce in my office. We've got the primary one in the kitchen, of course. However, I have a spare in my office. So, if the kitchen one ever runs out, you'll know what to do. I can break into the one at my workplace that isn't in use. Then I'll be able to go into full nagging mode. And purchase 2 additional bottles. So that the one in the kitchen and the one in the office can be replaced. So just keep a backup of everything you could need. And a good method so that when you use the last one, you don't have to think about it. You're well aware that you'll have to replace everything. So, just before the end, place a marker. This indicates that you need to place a new order. So, for my toner cartridges, I have a spare. I've also scribbled down the phone number on a piece of paper. That's just next to the cartridges on the wall. So I know who to call if I need more. It's just a simple process. Finally, there are checklists. I suppose it's self-evident, but it's a fantastic idea. To make a list of everything you might require, you don't want to have to start from scratch every time. When I go on a training course for a few days, I've made a list of everything I need to bring. So that I don't have to think and don't have to take any chances I'm prone to forgetting stuff I'll need. Actually, I've moved on from my checklist now. I also have a travel bag and a second one. I have a list of everything I might need in my bag. So I can just grab my suitcase and leave. However, you must have a system in place in either case. So you don't have to think about it all the time and don't become stressed. After that, when you get to the extreme end, you realize that you don't have your iPhone charger, or whatever the case may be. Aren't you going to be flustered by then? So put it on your to-do list. Should keep a spare one in your car at all times. Alternatively, you might have a travel bag. So that you aren't wasting mental energy on the minutiae of life. So, for you, the question is, what are your recurring issues? How can you improve your system for those? Welcome to the fifth segment, which is all about having a good mindset. It's all about boosting your happiness, after all. So that'll be a part of it. What is the best way to get rid of negative emotions? We'll also consider our financial situation. Is it true that money makes you happy? So, this is the fifth of 7 sections. This section, on the other hand, is about having a positive mindset. What can you do to improve your life by adopting a more positive outlook? The first thing to understand is that money is a finite resource. Money will not make you happy, so isn't the answer. For years, I've been contemplating this. I like to keep an eye on my friends and see what they are up to. I'd like to share 2 of them with you. Of my friends and the events that transpired in their lives. Now, I'd better not name the first of my friends. However, he has had a thriving career in the city. He's put in a lot of time, to be honest. Waking up early and working until the wee hours of the morning. He arrives home after his children have already fallen asleep. In fact, when his children were young, he hardly saw them. He has, however, amassed a substantial fortune and lives comfortably. Just outside the M25, in this big great house. Is he happy, and if so, how happy is he? And the answer is that he is not. He doesn't like his job, and he works long hours. He doesn't get much time at home, and when he does, he's simply worn out. And I told him about it as I was talking to him about it, and I stated to him, I'm not sure why you do this. I know it pays well, but... However, is it worthwhile? Oh yes, I've got a plan, he said. I'm going to take early retirement. And I was considering it as a strategy. Is this a sound strategy? And I believe it is possible. If you are able to retire quite early, and then go on to have a fantastic life, it might be worthwhile to make the sacrifice. Up until that time in your life. However, he had planned to retire at the age of 45. He hasn't retired yet, despite the fact that he is 55 years old. Even though he is about 60 years old, he continues to work. He'll be working part-time from now on. Because the money is plentiful, when is he going to retire for good? So, if you're not careful, tomorrow will always be jam. And you'll never be able to get there. And when he does ultimately retire, a handful of things, I believe, may occur. One possibility is that he will pass out. As a result of his exhaustion and worry, he might not be able to retire when he wants. And which he is deserving of. Another thing that could occur is if he retires and is in good health, etc., I believe there is a chance he will retire. And never get into full-on party mode. I mean, I can't image him having a jet ski or anything. And other stuff because, he's exhausted. He's been drained of all his energy by his job. As a result, I believe it is well worth considering. Is it a smart idea to make a lot of money right now? If you don't have time to appreciate it, and if you intend to take advantage of it when you retire, I believe it will be too late. My other friend, on the other hand, received his money earlier. He established a software firm, and he got £10 million for it. He received $400,000 for himself. So he's got £4 million in the bank. And he took a year off to go across the world. Having a fantastic time all over the world, he responded by sending me images of himself on beaches. It was amazing, with lovely females and everything, and it looked fantastic. But now that he's back, guess what he's up to? And the answer is that he created a new business. And why has he gone to such lengths? He doesn't require the funds, but he does require assistance. The intellectual stimulation. He also stated that there is no mental challenge. If you're just rich and on vacation, you'll become bored quickly. So, I believe you can learn something from that. Is that it's possible that it's not a good idea to create a firm, and then sell it for a large sum of money, or to try it because what if it doesn't work out? And many others never succeed. To sell their business for whatever amount of money. Even if you succeed though, what are your plans following that? And I believe the answer is to try to enjoy the process as much as possible. Have fun growing your business. I'd like to work for a merchant bank or something similar. 'Cause if you don't enjoy it, then that's going to be an issue. Don't do it for the money, do it because you enjoy it. Because both of my friends are still employed. And they're still doing things they don't care for. So you'll have to look for a job that makes you happy. And I'll get into that a little later. But, to summarize this section, why hasn't money brought happiness to these people? And I believe that having a little bit of everything is a good thing. You will be happier if you have a lot of money. I believe it makes you feel a little better. So, if a bottle of wine costs twice as much, it will be 10% more pleasant. And if you spend twice as much on your car, you'll save twice as much. That will make you a bit happier. The bigger house will make you happier. However, the issue is that the price is too high. The cost of making that money outweighs the joy that you experience. So perhaps the money makes you 10% happier. However, gaining that money comes at a cost. Reduces your happiness by 30%, as a result, it's a net loss. That is why, in the end, money will not make you happy. And I suppose it's self-evident. Why would someone pay you a lot of money? If you're looking for a job, there has to be a catch. It has to be a difficult job. And why doesn't everyone start their own company? And just make loads of money? The truth is it's highly competitive. It's also really challenging. As a result, you will have to pay a charge. For obtaining that sum of money, and the cost will overshadow the joy you will experience from the funds, so the first step is to put money out of your mind. Much more effort should be put into finding a job that you enjoy. And that's what I'd want to discuss in the parts that follow. This time it's only a brief video to explain that life is too short to squander on a career that makes you unhappy. As a result, you must pick a career that you enjoy. But how are you going to accomplish it? It's critical because 5 days out of 7 are spent working. You must take action. But how can we go about finding the ideal employment for us? And I've had a number of ideas on the subject. And the first is to simply keep looking. Simply keep seeking for the ideal job. And, inquire about other people's jobs. Always ask yourself, would I want to undertake that job? Never think to yourself, well, that's what I'm doing now. You can always reskill and learn new things. So just think and think and think and think and think and think, what kind of employment would be great for you? Then experiment with various options until you discover it. It's far too short a life to be locked in a rut that you are unsatisfied with. And how would you describe your ideal job? Well, I believe it's a three-circle junction. First and foremost, it must be something you enjoy doing. Second, it ought to be something you excel at. Finally, it must be something unique that you can be compensated for. So, if it's something you enjoy and are good at, go for it. However, you will be unable to obtain funding for it. I'm not sure if it's skateboarding or whatever, but that's not going to work. What if it's something you enjoy doing? And it pays handsomely, but you aren't particularly good at it. For instance, you may play music or anything similar. Then that's not going to work. What if it's something you're really excellent at? And it pays well, but you don't enjoy it? That's also not a good idea. So, I'll have to come up with something that works. In each of those three rings also, I believe you must exercise caution. Because if you have a pastime that you enjoy, you should pursue it. If you include it into your job, it will be a success. It is possible that you will dislike it. Actually, I was a member of a band at university. And it was fantastic, and I adored it. Finally, at the end of the summer semester, we played 7 days in a row, and it was exhausting. And by the 7th day's end, I already despised the band and its songs. After only 7 in a row, I was sick of it. So, picture making a living as a musician. And being required to do a gig every day for years, I believe you'd grow to despise it. So, while you're considering your perfect job, keep this in mind. It has to be something you enjoy doing and would like to continue to do so. Even if you made a life out of it, and that you're good at, and for which you may be compensated. Finally, you might choose to inquire about yourself with others, because they may be able to see you at times. You can see yourself more clearly than you can see yourself. So, tell them what I'm good at. What kind of job do you think I should get? Because they can say, well, yeah, you should work as a TV host, and you'll think to yourself, can I? But it's possible that they're correct. The way other people perceive you is quite important. As a result, the never-ending chore of finding the ideal employment for you, it's critical to devote some time to this. Now we've arrived at perhaps the most crucial video. This section is about maintaining an optimistic outlook on life. You will undoubtedly receive what you sow. And if you're hoping for positive things, they're more likely to occur because they have an impact. Your social relationships with others as well as your own psychological state. So, what can we do to make ourselves happier? Surprisingly, there are certain things you can do to improve your situation. You can make oneself happier, but happiness already exists. It's always there, like the sun, shining brightly. However, the sun isn't constantly visible. Because there are clouds in front of it, it's also not about turning up the heat. All we have to do now is get rid of the clouds. Which of your negative feelings are you experiencing? So, if you could eliminate unpleasant feelings, what would you do? You may then be happier as a result of your cognitive processes. But how do we go about doing that? What is the best way to get rid of negative emotions? The first step is to recognize that your unpleasant emotions are something you choose. You have the option of being furious, worried, or guilty, or resentment, or whatever the case may be. And that's a little strange. Why would you select unpleasant emotions, after all? And the reason you feel there are payoffs is because you believe there are payoffs. That you're going to gain from those feelings. Those payoffs, however, are always bogus. Every unpleasant emotion comes with a phony payoff. So, what would be a good example? The phony payoff of rage? Why would you become enraged? And the reason for this is that you believe it makes you stronger. It will motivate you to act and be powerful. Isn't it, however, the deceptive payoff? Because getting enraged does not make you stronger. It actually makes you weaker in the long run. Because you are unable to think coherently. Another erroneous payoff from anger, I reasoned, could be: you'll feel better afterward, and you'll be able to let off steam. But, if you've been angry, do you feel better afterwards? Have you had a chance to let off steam? No, being furious makes you feel a little worse. Let's take a look at 2 more unfavorable feelings. Let's talk about worrying for a moment. What is the phony benefit of worrying? And I assume you believe that if you worry, things will get better. It will help you plan more effectively, or put forth more effort to prepare. If you're worried about something, keep this in mind. Worrying, on the other hand, does not lead to preparation. When it comes to work preparation and planning, it really makes you do less. You're not preparing because you're too preoccupied with worrying. When you are less productive in your preparation because you're paralyzed by fear and anxiety. Worrying, on the other hand, does not help. Another benefit of worrying is that if something goes wrong, you may say, well, I'm sure it went wrong, but at the very least I was concerned about it. So, I'm a decent person. But in reality, you aren't. You weren't expecting it because you weren't prepared. As a result, worry is practically a substitute for planning. It increases the chances of something going wrong. The third negative emotion is rage. I'd like you to choose guilt. Why would we want to feel bad? There's also a phony payoff this time. Which is to say, we hope that feeling guilty isn't one of them. It does not, however, make us improve our behavior in the future. What effect does guilt have? Is that it allows you to keep doing it. It would become extinct if guilt worked. Because you would alter your behavior in the future. People who are guilty, on the other hand, appear to be experiencing for the rest of their lives, don't they? They continue to feel bad about everything. So guilt helps you to keep doing what you're doing. It also enables you to declare, I'm not a nasty guy at all. I'm very aware that I killed my next-door neighbor's cat. But, by the way, I didn't, but it's a hypothetical situation. I'm sure I shot my neighbor's cat, but at the very least I felt bad about it. So I'm not such an awful person after all. You are, however, the one who shot your neighbor's cat. So, guilt does not imply that you are a nice person. It has no effect on your behavior in the future. So, whichever unpleasant emotion you choose, keep it in mind. It was given a phony payoff. That is why you have chosen it. As a result, the best option is to avoid it. You're expected to understand that there's a payoff. Because it's false, and in such case, to think about it, if I don't get paid, I'll quit. After all, I'm not going to select this emotion. Allow yourself to wallow in remorse for a minute. Or be worried or irritated for a minute. I can't believe he did that to me. But I think I'm going to move on from that right now. Since it isn't a useful emotion as a result, I'd like you to consider what you'll pet. What is a bad emotion and why do you choose it? Then, once you learned your payoff was a ruse, you can then choose not to experience that emotion. So there's one way to make yourself happier. Simply get rid of those unpleasant emotions one by one. I'll talk about how to do that in the upcoming video. With one magical phrase, you can banish all negative emotions. So, here's the next thing you can do to boost your happiness. Through overcoming unpleasant emotions, I am responsible to use the magic word. Years ago, I read somewhere that this sentence, I'm in charge, and I'm going to get rid of it. Each and every bad emotion I recall thinking to myself, wow, that's incredible. That can't possibly be correct. But it's been on my mind since then. And I believe that to be correct. In most cases, you're to blame for what transpired. So, let's say you're in the market for a new car. If you don't have anything ready by a given date, you, on the other hand, are in charge. You should have finished it before the deadline. If you have a major disagreement with someone, you're most likely to blame for it. If you're envious of someone, for example, somebody has a better life than you are most likely to blame for the situation. That your life is set up the way it is. And you're totally in charge of how you handle things. So things happen now and then. That you're not in charge of, however, how you respond to it is all up to you. The person who pulls out in front of you in his automobile, you must also slam on the brakes. You are in charge of how you respond to that event. You are not required to become enraged. You may choose whether or not you want to be furious. As a result, you are solely responsible for your feelings. And in your case, fairly frequently. So let's have a look at a couple of examples. Something akin to self-pity, as if to say, oh, my life is terrible. Taking responsibility is, without a doubt, the answer. What are your plans for dealing with it? Make a strategy and put it into action. And then there's anger, which is the act of becoming enraged over something. You are in charge of whether or not you make a decision. To become enraged or not to become enraged, and it is unquestionably better to maintain composure and take action rather than becoming enraged. And, as I already stated, if you're envious of another person, then it's up to you to decide what to do about it. Being envious isn't going to get you what they have. You must put your jealousy aside and take action to address it. Similarly, if you're worried, you're to blame. As a result of what occurs in that setting. Whether you plan or not is entirely up to you. Whether you take some steps ahead of time or not, so the solution to any negative emotion is I am responsible. And isn't that incredible? So, if you're going to be accountable, what are your plans? And you just have two options. You have two options: you can change your mind, or you can alter your behavior. Alternatively, you can alter your behavior. So that you may alter your perspective on a circumstance, I don't think I'll be envious of my next door neighbor. He has a beautiful garden. But I'm not going to be envious. Or you can think to yourself, actually, I'm going to change what I'm doing. I'm also going to clean up my garden. As a result, the issue will be resolved. Alternatively, if you're embarrassed by the state of your home, if you're feeling guilty or ashamed, adjust your mindset. And think to myself, no, I like my house just the way it is. It's cozy, it's intriguing, and it's fun. May alter your behavior to make your home more orderly. So there you have it. Those are your alternatives. Actually, in the past, this was the situation. You probably only have one choice, which is to alter your perspective on it, due to the fact that the past has already occurred, so something like remorse or rage comes to mind. There's basically only one thing you can do, which is to alter your attitude toward such things. Then convince yourself, there's nothing I can do right now. It has already occurred. It's pointless to be furious, and it's pointless to be sorry. I'm just going to forget about it. However, you will have those two options in the future. So, whether you're worried or feeling guilty, which are feelings that are dependent on the future, you have two options when it comes to whether you want to alter your perspective on the circumstance, may alter your plans for dealing with the circumstance. These are the angel and devil possibilities, in my opinion. And to be honest, the way I see it is the angel choice is to alter your behavior. So having an extremely gorgeous residence is the ideal option. To put it another way, or to be really polite to everyone, to never eat a third donut or anything like that, as well as to alter your behavior. Changing how you feel is the devil's option. And to think I don't give a damn about my next door neighbor's garden, or I don't care if eating the third donut is a sin. I'm simply going to eat it and enjoy it. However, you always have the option of choosing between the angel and the devil. In those two scenarios, and I believe it is quite difficult to live your life as though you were an angel, however, I believe it is also a poor idea to be. As you move through life, you are a complete devil. However, I believe that a combination of the two is the best option. Could be a nice match for you. So, in order to be free of something like guilt, in some cases, you can use the angel. Could spend more time with your children. Also, don't shoot the cat of your next door neighbor. You can, however, make advantage of the guilt. Sorry, but the devil option is also available. In other cases, and simply play more tennis rather of cleaning the house, and take pleasure in it because you are deserving of it. So you're in charge, and the only way to get out of it is to take action. Assuming that responsibility entails either a shift in mindset or a shift in behavior. What you do or how you think are both important. The next video is about boosting your happiness. It's all about how you talk to yourself. What do you tell yourself when you're alone? And the most important thing is to always talk to yourself in a positive manner. Never make a negative comment about yourself. Regarding other people, or your predicament, never think to yourself, ugh, that person irritates me. Ugh, I despise my life, or ugh, why do I feel so hopeless? We also have what are known as scripts, which regulates our actions. These scripts, or life scripts as they're officially known, are self-perceptions we have regarding ourselves that regulate our actions. So when someone says to me, I'm usually late, I understand. Or I'm not sure, I can't seem to stop myself from losing my cool. It's a script. If you say I'm always or I can't help. People, like us, are victims of their scripts. For everything, we all have scripts. As an example, I'm a really impatient person. I'm also convinced that I'm impatient. So when I go into a store and there's a long line, I'm not surprised. How should I act? My subconscious muses. Of course, I'm an impatient person, it continues. Then it switches to an irritable state. I'm thinking to myself, ugh, I can't believe that. When am I going to be served? And it's because of these things that we behave the way we do. As a result, they are selective in some situations. You can also have scripts that are more general in nature. Like as I'm a lucky person, or I'm a happy person, or I'm a bad luck charm. And these scripts have the ability to regulate your behavior. As a result, it has influence over the relationships you've shared with others, as well as the events that occur in your life. All of your encounters with other people, your self-perceptions have a strong hold on you. So upbeat all the time. Inside your thoughts, everything you say to yourself, it should be uplifting. I know I can do it, it'll be fantastic. I enjoy working with this individual and doing this task. Even if you're on your way to work, I enjoy my work, you tell yourself. And I realize that's a strange thing to say. However, if you say it many times, it will become true. Now, ideally, you should say these things to yourself. Should not only be uplifting, but they should, however, be in the present tense. So rather than saying, one day, my life will be fantastic, say, one day, my life will be amazing. That is to say, things aren't looking good right now. You should express yourself, my life is fantastic, I adore it. I'm a joyful person who enjoys what I do. Everything is fantastic, single quote. You should also speak positively about yourself. Now you must say these things with emotion and conviction. So, if you just say I'm not disturbed in the least. That meeting scheduled for next week, then your brain understands what you're saying. You've got to say something. I'm looking forward to next week's discussion. It'll all work out. And I'm really looking forward to that conversation. And you have to speak it as if it were true. Put some feeling in there. Imagine the meeting going exceptionally well. And tell yourself, I enjoy my work, I genuinely enjoy what I do. And if you can say it confidently enough, then your subconscious mind will begin to consider, that's intriguing. Something has changed, you know. Perhaps he or she truly believes it. Because your subconscious isn't aware of what's going on. What's real and what's not, it simply takes in everything you say and sums it up. As a result, it is aware that over time, you've missed 90% of your meetings. So when you say, I'm always late, what you're really saying is I'm always late. It is aware of this. All of the proof is there. And if you say, I'm always on time to meetings, that's a red flag. No, you're not, it says. You were only a week ago late to 3. As a result, you should remark meetings are always on time for me. And say it again and again till it's true. It's similar to, let's imagine you have a large vat of black paint. For whatever reason, you want to turn it into white paint. If you add a drop of white paint to the black vat, it will turn white. It would simply vanish. But add a little more, after that, it would progressively turn dark gray. Then there's light gray, medium gray, and finally dark gray. And ultimately, you'll be able to turn it white. However, if you want to modify the color, you must continue to do so for a long period. You can't just throw one bit in and walk away. It hasn't changed, ugh. It's the same with your scripts as well. To say I'm looking forward to the presentation next week is an understatement. Or I never lose my cool when I'm kept waiting for whatever reason, you want to turn it into white paint. If you add a drop of white paint to the black vat, it will turn white. It would simply vanish. But add a little more, after that, it would progressively turn dark gray. Then there's light gray, medium gray, and finally dark gray. And ultimately, you'll be able to turn it white. However, if you want to modify the color, you must continue to do so for a long period. You can't just throw one bit in and walk away. It hasn't changed, ugh. It's the same with your scripts as well. To say I'm looking forward to the presentation next week is an understatement. Or I never lose my cool when I'm kept waiting. You can tell a lot about yourself by what you say to yourself. This is a fantastic idea. This little film has the potential to completely transform your life. All you have to do now is give it a shot. There is no expense, and there is no risk. Nobody else will be aware of your actions. Simply begin to speak positive thoughts to yourself. So, what are you going to say first? What will be your personal mantra that you'll be doing from now on? Right now, I've got 3 very essential things on my mind. In this video, I have some ideas for you. The first is the concept of forming a mastermind group. The plan is to get together once in a while with a bunch of pleasant, like-minded folks and assist one another in making plans. Plan your lives together, relative fates. As a result, each person expresses their desires and the kinds of inquiries they've got, what assistance they require from others, and the idea is that you all help each other in order to construct a life plan as a group. Then you hold them accountable. So, when you next meet, perhaps a month from now, maybe over a curry or something, you might inquire about each other's progress, any issues they may have, as well as any assistance they may require. You'll also come across the mastermind gang. Will have a significant impact on your movement onwards and upwards to your bright existence, and if you're just stressed out in general, you could say it's all too much. Greetings, mastermind gang. So, what should I do? What do you think about the following issues? And hopefully they'll have some suggestions and ideas on activities you could do as a result. It must be a collection of people. Somebody you can rely on and with whom you are at ease, people you admire, as well as those you admire a little. People who have a strong presence. You don't want it to be a bunch of grumpy losers. As a result, the mastermind group should consist of people you admire, who are successful, and who you'd like to collaborate with. Positive folks who will help you achieve your goals. So that's the first and most critical step. The second point to remember is that you harvest what you sow. So it's not all about you, you should return some of the favor. In general, it appears that we reap what we sow in life. This is a significant source of joy, because we feel better when we are able to assist others. However, they will almost certainly assist us in the future. This will bring us joy as well. As a result, helping others brings you double satisfaction. So, think about how you can give back a little. Is it possible for me to merely give a small amount of money? Or can I volunteer a portion of my time? Is it possible for me to donate some of my expert time? So, rather than simply going out and helping someone, sweeping their drive or something similar, let's pretend you're an accountant and you're an expert. Alternatively, if you are an IT professional, you might assist them with this, because that is significantly more useful. You could even be able to teach people certain skills. That is the ultimate act of giving back. So, are you willing to return the favor? Keeping with the notion of reaping what you sow, always be courteous to everyone you come into contact with. It's pointless to make enemies. That will only cause you issues in the future. Always be courteous to everyone you come into contact with. Whatever your attitude is, whatever your preconceptions are, you may be aware of them as a result of their appearance. Always be courteous to others. Always, 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 always. Thank you to everyone for everything you do. If you have the opportunity, always compliment others. If someone performs something good, they should be praised. Even if it's only in a cafe. Also, the donut is lovely, compliment the individual. These donuts are fantastic, you may say. Take advantage of every opportunity to compliment others. Also, offering to assist. On YouTube, I came upon an incredible film where they conducted an experiment and a man was the subject. I was pushing a cart with a load on it. He was simply pushing up the pavement with a stack of boxes on top. He also made it to the trolley. He tipped it over without making it evident. And all of these boxes ended up strewn across the street. And everyone else was just stepping over it. Ooh, there are boxes in the way, tooting. Nobody came to a halt only to say, do you require assistance in obtaining those items? What a fascinating world we live in. Just to have aided that individual, it would have felt nice to do it, and he would have been pleased. You never know where it will take you. As a result, offering to assist others. Thanking you, congratulating you, and offering to assist you, as well as basically providing something back, so that's the second of the 3 items. This is something I wanted to bring up in this video. The third is the concept of stepping out of one's comfort zone. There's a book called The Road Less Traveled that I'd recommend. It's written by Scott Peck, and it's the most amazing book I've ever read. He also mentions sloth there. Is the source of all of your issues. In the end, he added, all negative emotions are a waste of time. Are all tied to laziness in some way. It's due of something like jealousy. You don't want to do it yourself because you're too lazy. Worry is a result of your indolence. To truly plan anything, and he might be correct. As a result, he dubbed it the road less traveled. Because the high road is the less trafficked path, since it is more difficult job, and everyone takes turns, they take the easy, low-cost route, and then regret it afterwards. So, what can you do to combat your inherent inclination? Isn't it true that we all have a natural predisposition to be lazy? And the solution is to make yourself do it. To push yourself outside of your comfort zone to take on challenges that are both frightening and tough. I've got 3 ideas about how you could go about it. And one of them is to raise awareness. The fact that you'll go ahead and accomplish it, to announce that we will be performing on this date, or I'm going to deliver a talk, or I'm going to do something else on a given day, I'm going to stop smoking. And then tell everyone, since you'll have to do it. The second option is to pay ahead of time. If you join a gym and pay a membership fee, you almost have to leave ahead of time. So there's another option for you. Make a conscious effort to do something. The third step is to enlist the help of someone else. Make a friend who wants to work as well. You're working on the same thing, or you're assisting each other to work on your various areas, so get out of your comfort zone and overcome your laziness. By enlisting the assistance of another person. That concludes the third segment of this video. So, what are you doing now that you're slacking off on? What are you trying to avoid doing? What method will you use to take the plunge? And make it a point to do it? Throughout this program, I've mentioned a number of novels. Because books are incredible and books contain all of the world's knowledge. I'd like to briefly suggest another book right now. Tim Gallwey's book is titled The Inner Game of Tennis. It also has anything to do with tennis. But it's also about life in certain ways. He also mentions the inner game of tennis in his book. There are 3 good reasons to play tennis. In truth, there are many reasons why you might accomplish anything in your life. 2 of these are untrue. 2 of them lead nowhere and bring nothing but misery. So let's start with competition. You may play tennis or do anything else to outperform the competition, and he tells me to forget about it. Forget about it. It's not all that enjoyable in the first place. To outperform others, and, moreover, you'll never be able to beat everyone. Even the finest tennis player in the world, you know. Every now and again, he loses. And it's really the only way to win. Approximately half of the time is to play folks that aren't as good as you are. And it's a pitiful approach to attempt to make oneself happy like that. Because you know deep down that you're only succeeding because you bully others who are in a worse position than you. As a result, a good tennis game would most likely be 50-50. As a result, you'll have to accept reality. That you'll lose 50% of your games, so forget about competition as a motivator for anything. The second factor is mastery. You could play tennis or anything else. As a means of attempting to master it, actually, I'm considering playing the saxophone here. I'm thinking of learning to play the saxophone. And be able to play any instrument. But the point is that you'll never be able to master it. Tennis is something you'll never be able to master. You'll never be able to hit every target in every circumstance. Even the greatest tennis player of all time, Roger Federer, I've never been able to master every shot. He couldn't always hit the perfect shot. So, if you're attempting to perfect something, keep this in mind. You'll only find it aggravating and inconvenient. You'll never be able to do it. So it isn't a question of mastery. So, what makes you want to play tennis? If it isn't mastery or competition. And the answer is to take pleasure in the images. Allow yourself to be free of the need to beat up on other people. Allow yourself to relax and let go of the need to be perfect. And just have fun with it. Now, when I was younger, I used to play a lot of squash. And I became quite competitive as a result. I was in the top box when I woke up. And as I got to the top box, I lost almost all of my games. As a result, that wasn't the best strategy. I never really got the hang of it. However, this has a significant negative impact on my enjoyment. What I did discover, though, was I enjoyed the sensation of whacking the ball. Whacking a squash ball gives you that beautiful squingy feeling. You'd hit it every now and then. It would fly right into the corner, which felt fantastic. And it may have happened only once during the entire encounter. That shot would feel great if you took it. But as I became better at it, I noticed something. I started to love it less as I came closer to mastery. As a result of increased competition, I too had a hard time finding someone to play with. Most of my buddies couldn't play since they weren't good enough. As a result, I had to compete with other people. And things started to become a little tricky. So, ultimately, what I'm thinking is this: rather than attempting to master something, it's preferable to dabble in a variety of activities and take pleasure in them. Play squash badly, as well as badminton and tennis. Who cares if you play the saxophone badly? As long as you enjoy yourself while doing it. That is, in fact, the key. We used to laugh a lot more back then. I used to play squash when I was in horrible shape. Then when I came to the latter, more difficult bouts. As a result, I believe The Inner Game of Tennis is an intriguing book. Regardless, I strongly advise you to read it. But consider yourself, consider your outlook on life. Are you a competitive person? Are you attempting to grasp new skills? And not being content as a result? And how skilled at sucking out the juice are you? Getting a smidgen of pleasure is enough. Everything you do should be a source of pride for you. This is section 6, and it's all about assertiveness. What does it mean to be assertive? And how do we go about doing it? When you wish to be aggressive, what words should you use? So, welcome to the assertiveness area. It is quite significant. If you want to live a truly wonderful life, that you must be self-assured, you must advocate for yourself in your interactions with others. So here are 3 videos about assertiveness for you. This is the first one, and it's about what it is. But first, we'll look at how to do it. After that, we'll consider another option. It's not quite the same as assertiveness, but it's close. So, what exactly is assertiveness in this first one? And, truly, the heart of assertiveness is the belief that you're a good person, feeling that you are entitled to be who you are, and that you have the right to express yourself. You have the right to your viewpoints. I've already discussed the importance of being true to oneself. And that you can only make yourself smaller if you aren't being true to yourself. As a result, you must believe that you are fine. Not that you are superior than others, however, you're fine as a person. And you could think, well, that's self-evident. Everyone believes they are in good shape. But do they, in fact? When you look in the mirror, you know who you are. Do you think you're looking particularly nice today? When you hear your own voice on an answering machine, it's even worse. Do you ever say to yourself, "Oh, I love that voice? God, I have a great voice." And the majority of people dislike their appearance. They don't like the way they sound. They despise being captured on video. They don't like their nose or something like that. However, it is critical to be prepared. At the very least, you should feel good about yourself. Okay, so you don't have the same physical appearance as Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, Angelina Jolie, Angelina Jolie, Angelina Jolie, Angel. However, you must believe that you are fine. This is, after all, a script. which we've previously discussed. So one of your scripts is to tell me that I'm fine. I think I'm fine, I think I'm fine. I'm not brilliant, but I get by. And that, my friends, is where assertiveness begins. That is the basis upon which you can construct your home. Successful interpersonal relationships, so you have to believe you're a good person. It's fine if other people don't agree with your viewpoints. They have rights, and you have the right to despise this shirt. However, I have a legal right to wear it. If everyone dislikes it, I'll probably modify it. However, the key is that I have the right to choose whichever clothing I want to wear. As a result, assertiveness is about asserting one's rights. It's about asserting your own rights, while also acknowledging and respecting the rights of others. As a result, I'm defending my right to wear this shirt. I do, however, recognize the fact that you have the right to despise my tea and request that I put on something different. So, yes, that is an important aspect of assertiveness. The right to freedom of expression is one of your rights. The freedom to express yourself. So, let's assume you're in a meeting that's moving slowly. When it has been going on for far too long, you have the right to speak whatever you want. Are we making any progress in this meeting? Can we do this meeting in a different way? You have the right to be heard as well. And what frequently occurs is that in a meeting, someone will say something and it'll go unnoticed. You have the right to say it again. Oh, by the way, can I just say that once more because I'm not sure you heard it? And many individuals think to themselves, oh, I'd best not say it again. I don't want to be dull, after all. However, you have a right to be heard, as well as for them to admit that they have heard you. The control aspect of assertiveness is also important. It's the belief that you have control over your actions. Therefore, you have some power over how you think. And this is something we've discussed before. You also have control over how others treat you. There's a phrase that I really like: others learn how to treat us when we teach them how to treat us. So, if you've had "kick me" scrawled over your brow, don't worry. Then people will pay attention. Some folks simply have a victim mentality. A victim mentality when it comes to interacting with the world. Oh, it happens to me all the time. Take a look at what has occurred to me. They're virtually inviting others to treat them the same way they've been treated. As a result, you have power over it. To have an impact on how others treat you, even if they mistreat you. I don't like you doing that, you can say. This brings me to my no crap policy that I previously said I'm refusing. It's your life, after all. You might only have 800 weekends left or something like that. As a result, you should do whatever you want. And assertiveness necessitates this. By the way, if you're under the age of 55, while you're thinking to yourself, I'm only 25, I don't care, you might want to figure out how many months you have left. If you're 25 years old and you only live to be 95, that's 70 years and 12 months in years. So, what is 70 divided by 12? I believe it is 840 months, which is not a long time. So, regardless of your age, it's critical to regain control. You should make the most of every moment you have. So assertiveness is about stating, this is my life, and this is my life. And I'll choose how I'm going to live it. The next stage, I think, is to establish a goal. In every circumstance. So, if you wish to influence someone's behavior, you must determine what that is. Let's take the case of someone at your office. On the phone, it's really loud. What are your goals in this situation? Now all you have to do is be assertive and go. I don't like it when you chat on the phone too loudly. However, I believe it would make more sense if to make a decision about what you desire. Is it your intention for them to talk more quietly? Is it your intention for them to relocate their desk? Or should you turn around? Is it possible that you want your desk relocated? Do you want a place to work or something? However, whatever your goal is, you must make a decision in this regard. After that, you'll be able to be assertive about how to acquire it. So there you have it, the fundamentals of assertiveness. What we're going to look at right now is that we'll discuss how to be forceful. And we'll see what happens. That there is a 4-step procedure that you can follow. It will inform you of what you should say in any challenging circumstance. So, in this video, I'd want to discuss assertiveness. In order to figure out how to do it. What should you truly say if you want to make a good impression? In a difficult position, stick up for yourself? Isn't it wonderful if there was a 4-step procedure? You could use that in any situation, right? There is, in fact. The procedure is as follows. I understand is the first step. I realize it's difficult, but you know. I understand you're pressed for time, but I understand how aggravating the situation was. That we were in only a few moments before, yet. Now, why would you begin by saying, I understand? And the answer is that it makes you appear rational. It also removes their justifications. As a result, they are unable to travel, yes, but it was a very inconvenient situation. Or scenario, yes, you are correct. But I'm pressed for time because you've already stated, I understand you're pressed for time, but. So, the first step is quite simple, I understand. You also don't have to say I understand out loud. It might be I'm sure. Or I'm sure. I understand you're in a rush, but. Step 2 is to express your feelings. You don't want to zoom in on what you're looking for. You must express your feelings. So this is the point at which you say, I understand how difficult it is to keep your dog under control. But it irritates me greatly when he enters through the fence and defecates in my garden, or I know you're under a lot of stress right now. However, I was deeply disturbed by the fact that you yelled at me in front of the entire office. It makes me feel terribly humiliated. Some people find it challenging to express their emotions. However, it is critical to do so. Since that is the source of power of the entire situation, because if, once you've announced your 4 steps, you don't follow them, you'll be in trouble. I don't care, they say, that's your problem. I don't care how you feel, they're effectively saying. And that, my friends, is war. I mean, that's a terrible thing to say. You don't give a damn about how someone else feels. Another benefit is that you can't argue with it. With a person's emotions, so when you say, it irritates me, what you're really saying is it irritates me. Well, no, it doesn't, or that's silly, they can't say. Well, maybe it is, but that's how I feel, you could say. As a result, expressing your feelings has a lot of power. You might want to consider this for a while. What words will you use to convey your feelings? However, it is critical to do so. Okay? As a result, we've stated, I understand, but. The next step is to express your desires. What are you expecting them to do? So, simply put, your dog irritates me. Stepping into my yard, well, sorry, the guy will say. You have to say, is this something that may happen? To fill up the gap in the fence, or anything similar. Would keeping him on a leash be possible? When you pass through the gate. And rather than just yelling at you, your boss has yelled at you. It does not appeal to me. So next time you're not happy with me, tell me, you should say. Would it be possible for you to simply do that? Instead of yelling at me, talk to me quietly in private. Yelling at me in front of the entire class? As a result, what you're doing is, you're providing them with a positive experience. Otherwise, it's just a constant annoyance. It's too cold in the office, you can simply tell your boss. You're expressing yourself, however, that isn't really useful. But if you remark, it's too cold, and we'd like a heater, you'll get a different response. It's all of a sudden turned positive and beneficial. As a result, there's a significant difference. Even if the answer is self-evident, of course, if it's cold in the office, you'll want a heater. You'll have to spell it out though. It sounds a lot more constructive that way. Step 3 is to say what you want. So far, we've got, I get it, I feel it, and I want it. What is the 4th phase in the process? The 4th step is to ask, is it all right? Is that something you'd consider reasonable? Are you able to see it from my perspective? And this is where you hammer them home. You'll get them to say, yes, okay, at this point. As a result, if you tell a neighbor, I understand how difficult it is to keep the dog under control. But when he comes through my garden, I don't like it. Isn't it feasible to completely obstruct the fence? Do you believe you could do that? You've got him if he says yes. Then, if he doesn't do it, I'll do it for him. After a few weeks, you can return and say, do you recall the conversation we had and what you said? You were going to erect a barricade? Is there any chance you could help? And now you can hold him accountable for not following his word. He's already stated that he'll do it. As a result, you may need to return. If he says he'll do something but then doesn't? What if he says no now? What happens if he says, I'm not sure, but what if your supervisor yells at you? And you assert, look, I understand you were upset at the time. However, it was really humiliating in front of the entire office. Is it feasible to speak with me in a calm manner? What are your thoughts? And what if the boss leaves? No, because, I can't help myself when I'm angry. I just need to let off steam, and you know what I mean. You deserved it since you were useless. If you get a no, all you have to do now is try again. Is to go around and say, well, I understand how inconvenient it was. I completely understand how aggravating it must have been for you. I acknowledge it was a stupid mistake on my part. But, I'm extremely bothered by it. And all I ask is that you speak with me privately. I'm sure you could do it. So you go back and do it all over again. You simply increase the volume of the words. So you simply wrote I truly believe. Or I have a strong feeling. And all I ask is, I'm sure you could do it. When you come back around, simply increase the number of words. Nobody is ever going to be able to withstand it twice. That concludes the 4-step procedure. A couple of last views on the subject. One is that you can use it as a one-time or recurring event. So, if someone keeps interrupting you while you're working, don't let it bother you. Begin with a single one-off. I know you've heard the news, you'd say. It's fantastic, but I'm just not feeling it. I'm feeling a little pressed right now. Would it be possible, is the 3rd step. Just give me a few minutes to finish this, and we can discuss afterwards. What are your thoughts? That's the one-time deal. Say it politely and then leave. However, if they continue to interrupt, then you may have to repeat the 4-step process. Look, I know, he says, referring to the habit. This is the first step, which you can't always tell. I understand that you don't always know if I'm available. It's not always possible to tell, but it's quite difficult for me, says the 2nd step. When you come in and chat to me, says the narrator. When I'm in the thick of a project. Would it be possible, is the 3rd step. To not enter if my door is locked. Would it be possible to go this way? To check whether I'm available outside of the office? Whatever you'd like them to do. What do you think, is the 4th phase? As a result, you can put them to the test on the habit. If challenging them on a one-time basis doesn't work, try something else. Then there's the final thought, it's never too late to change your mind. As an example, if your employer yells at you, and then you think to yourself, I'm not pleased with him for doing that. That was really terrible, he shouldn't have done it. You can plan the language instead of obsessing over it. After that, you can go back and say, I simply wanted to say something to you, boss. I know you were irritated previously, but it also irritated me. Could we do it again next time, and then you're off? So it's never too late to think about the language and then revise it. And inform them that what they did was wrong. That concludes the 4-step procedure. It's just fantastic. It works in almost every case. You can put it to good use to improve your life. Because it can help you improve the way others treat you, you can also utilize it to make requests that you desire in any circumstance. We'll take a look at one more assertiveness video. And that is to consider negotiation as a possibility. To simply speaking up and stating something, so let's have a look at that. Finally, here's a video about assertiveness. I'd want to bring up the topic of negotiation. Because it isn't always a case of either they do it or they don't do it, alternatively, they don't. It's not always a simple yes or no decision. There is occasionally some type of middle ground. You may be able to locate, or perhaps a win-win situation, where both of you can be happy. So instead of a shaky yes, 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 yes to something you don't care for, by simply stating, "I'm not doing that, why don't you try negotiating?" As I previously stated, going to see family, and rather than simply, "Oh, fine, we'll pay them a visit for a long time. I don't want to go," or "I don't want to go." Why not say, "Well, if we could simply go for half a day, that would be great. That would be fantastic. Alternatively, if we could visit my favorite store," or something similar, "that would be fantastic." As a result, negotiating is a viable choice for obtaining what you want. In situations, you get what you want. And I've only had 3 suggestions for this. The first of these is, rather than conceding, make a bargain. So, rather than merely saying, "Okay, why don't you get something in return?" So, if we were able to go see one of my fave movies, then I'd be a lot more excited to come. Or something along those lines. You might even make money if you trade. They may offer you something that is simple for them to provide. That's fantastic for you. So you might tell a consumer, "If you want to, I've been scheduled 5 times in a row. I could do something exceptional if I stretched it out across the year. Prepared exclusively for you." And they might be ecstatic about it. And you might as well. As a result, trade might be quite beneficial to both of you. Another benefit of trading is that it prevents you from appearing dishonest. For the reason why, if you say, "This is how much I want to be paid for it," and then you say later, "Okay, I'll do it for a lower price," they're thinking to themselves, "What was the first number, by the way?" If you're buying, you could say, "This is the most I can afford." And then you go later, "Alternatively, I'll pay a little more." They're thinking to themselves, "What was he saying when he said he only had that much money? And now he's discovered some more cash?" If, on the other hand, you exchange, if you say, "So, if I get these extra items, then I'd be willing to pay a higher price," that appears to be perfectly okay. That's because there's a reason for it. In the same way, if I reduced my price in exchange, as a result of you booking me twice, then you can understand why that is. Because I was only allowed to complete the papers once. As a result, if you trade, you won't appear dishonest. It could even be unrelated to money. As an example, let's say you wish to spend 4 weeks in Australia. And you have to reluctantly agree to do it for only 3 days. If you told your supervisor, "If I could go during the holidays, when is the ideal time for me to go?" then I'd be content with a 3-week trip. You can see that there's a problem. There's a reason for it. Finally, there is a cause to trade. Is that it halts the decay. So the fact that they have to hand over anything each time, they are unable to drag you up or down in price. Let's pretend for a moment that you were, if you wanted to buy something but only had a limited quantity of money. But what if you said, "I'll pay a little more if you give me something more"? They'll almost certainly agree to that. However, if they manage to get you to spend more money each time, they must return something to you. They might quit requesting additional money from you. As a result, if you trade, you can avoid the eventual slide. As a result, always trade. Now there are 2 more negotiation tips I'd like to provide. Don't open first is one of them. In any case, if you can persuade them to open first, you'll be ahead of the game. It's much better now. So, how long do you want us to stay with you? And pay a visit to your relatives? As an example. Rather, "I won't be gone for more than 2 days." Because they may only have wished to go for a day, you never knew, for all you know. As a result, get them to open first. The other is to ask for more than you anticipate. Let's say you wish to spend 4 weeks in Australia. There's a chance you'll get 4 if you ask for 4. Your boss is leaving, "I'm afraid I can only give you 3 minutes. However, if you say, "I'd like to go for 6 weeks," then your supervisor might remark to you, I think 4 is a good number. So, ask for more than you think you'll get. Of course, there's a chance your boss will leave. Yes, you are allowed to have 6. So, ask for more than you think you'll get. Just in case you're interested. So, there are some ideas for negotiating. And I believe that negotiation should be included. Blend of assertiveness, it's a different way to get what you desire. So, it concludes that portion. However, you will now go to the last section. It has to do with persuading others. Welcome to the 7th and final section. It is essentially about labor interacting with others in the greatest possible way, so we'll look at ways to establish rapport with others. How do you gain popularity? After that, we'll talk about networking. How to make new friends and keep in touch with old ones. After that, we'll look at persuasion and influence. Many types of people. As a result, this program's final part, it's all about swaying other people's opinions. And, obviously, if you're going to lead the best existence you could possibly live, there will be some collaboration with others. As well as influencing others when it comes to dealing with problematic people, maximizing the potential of everyone you deal with, functioning well in a group, and so on. As a result, I've prepared 4 short videos for you. The first is about establishing a rapport with others. Getting along with everyone. And if you want to influence people, this is crucial. The first stage is to gain their approval. So, how do you go about doing that? And the first thing I'd suggest is to always be pleasant. You'll have a lot better chance of getting what you want if you treat people with respect. And as we already stated, you reap what you sow. So why wouldn't you be polite to them in the first place? And you'd like to have as few foes as possible. When you progress in life, in most cases, you want everyone to be present, wishing to assist you. So, how can you gain popularity? And I believe that the first rule of being liked is to be loved. In fact, it's also the first law of selling, is to be an exceptional listener. And I'm going to make a separate video on it coming up next, so we'll get back to it. The first reason to be loved is to be a good listener. Why do we admire people who can listen well? And the reason for this is that it makes us feel significant. When they pay attention to us, if they only talk about themselves, they'll be bored. It's tedious for us. We don't feel important either. So, if you want to be loved, learn to listen well. The second step is to perfect your body language. Have a friendly, attentive body language. If you keep gazing at your watch, you'll figure it out. Throwing things like that out the window, even a fleeting glance at your wristwatch, or even a fleeting glance out the window, they'll notice and think about it. This person isn't paying attention. So, the body language is quite warm and attentive. Make sure your arms aren't crossed or anything like that. That's not very welcoming. The body language is so pleasant, open, welcoming, and cheerful. If someone doesn't grin when you first meet them, it's time to move on. What do they have to say? Imagine if I greeted you with a warm welcome. What I truly mean is this: I'm not a fan of your appearance. That's quite impolite, and it's a bad start. So, even if you're nervous regarding the meeting you'll have with someone, when you first meet them, make sure to smile. Because this puts it on a solid foundation from the start. So, smiling, having an open body language, and maintaining good eye contact are all important things to do. A passing remark to show that you're paying attention, I'll get back to you on that. In a moment, we'll get to listening. And, in an ideal world, to be liked. You'd also discover some common ground. People who are similar to us are appealing to us. As a result, if you were both born in the same region of the country, or if you're looking for something to do with your spare time that both of you like, maybe you're both fans of the same football team, or you're both enjoying mountain biking or anything similar, perhaps you have similar tastes in music. We need to establish some common ground. How are you going to find a common ground now? And the response is inquisitive. I'll inquire as to what they did over the weekend. Well, I saw Man United, they could add. After that, I went for a mountain bike ride. "Oh, I adore Man United," you can say. "I enjoy mountain riding," for example. Simply choose the one that appeals to you and make a remark on it. So, by probing, you can establish common ground. It is a simple task. After watching this video, you can put that into practice. And you'll see how well it works. Making people feel valued is the next thing they want. We can do this by asking them questions and listening to their answers. However, you can also compliment them. Compliments are quite valuable. In the stage of influencing rapport as a result, complimenting anything is really significant. As a result, if you go to someone's house, and you don't say anything nice about anything, essentially, what you're stating is, "I can't think of a single thing about your home that I like." And that's a bit of a snub. Likewise, if you go to someone's office, you can generally find something to compliment. It's usually self-evident. A bowling trophy is usually present. Or a piece of paper on their desk, and there's a big arrow pointing in the right direction. Make a remark about my bowling trophy. If you don't, you're admitting that you despise bowling. And you think bowlers are a bunch of knuckleheads? And that's not a good way to start a meeting. So give kudos to whatever you see. There will almost certainly be a photograph on the wall. I'm not sure if it's because of their car or whatever. Perhaps it's just the view out the window. You'll be able to find something to praise. And it's quite significant to congratulate people at every possible chance. Then there's one last thing you can do to improve your rapport, is adjusting to their preferences. Mirroring their tone of voice and body expression. So, if they're really chill and laid back, you should also sit and converse in a relaxed manner. You don't want to be leaning forward because it's very aggressive. If they're leaning forward though, you should take a step forward and move on. "Oh, yeah, that's fantastic." Because if you're sitting back, you're wasting your time. It appears that you are unconcerned. So, whether you lean forward or back, you'll be fine. You should do the same as they do. As well as their speech habits, so, if they're energetic and talk quickly, you should follow suit. Because if you come in and leave, it'll be a waste of time. I've come to speak with you about this. They're just thinking to themselves, "This isn't my type of person." Likewise, if they're incredibly relaxed and tranquil, you don't want to just walk in and out. So, tell me more about this. As a result, imitating their speaking pattern is a good idea. It's also crucial to mirror their body language. The majority of individuals do this without thinking, while some do not. It's also worthwhile to consider oneself. When you're next in a position, observe yourself with a client. So there you have it, a plethora of concepts. In terms of how to be loved in the first place, 30 seconds is crucial. And in general, if others like you, you will be successful. They're more inclined to go along with your plans. That's what we'll look at in the following part. We'll take a look at the skeptic's perspective on being loved. And we'll have a look at in-depth information on how to be a great listener. As a result, this video will teach you how to be a great listener. And if you want to be a good listener, you don't just sit there and do nothing. You must aggressively inquire of them. Active listening and eliciting information from them, and the most effective approach to do this is to make use of anything. The question funnel is what it's called. So you begin by asking open-ended inquiries. Anything might be the case. Tell me about your work, for example. Or how is it like to work here? Or something along those lines. After that, you'll move on to the probing stage. Tell me a little more about that, you say to them. So, what happened after that? Or, to put it another way, how did you feel about it? Additional questions of this nature, they're the most significant. They're the ones where you learn the most. All of the extremely useful data finally, at the funnel's terminus, where it narrows to a sliver, at the end of most questions, there is usually a closed question. Which would be anything along the lines of, so, do you want to take action on this or not? Or, to put it another way, should we fix it or not? As a result, the funnel has that shape. The probing inquiries in the middle are crucial. The tricky part about probing questions is that they are difficult to answer. That they are made up because you have no idea what they're going to say when you ask them, "How does it feel to work here?" They might think it's wonderful, or they might think it's dreadful. As a result, you'll have to improvise when it comes to probing queries. However, there is some good news. They're all pretty much the same format. They're continually saying things like, "Oh, really, tell me about that. Why is it wonderful or bad," for example. So long as you have a few basic tools, you're good to go. It should be simple to come up with probing inquiries. One of my friends only has one. To put it another way, talk me through it. So, if someone claims their job is fantastic, believe them. "Oh, talk me through it," he says. And if they say their job is terrible, don't believe them. This person isn't paying attention. So, the body language is quite warm and attentive. Make sure your arms aren't crossed or anything like that. That's not very welcoming. The body language is so pleasant, open, welcoming, and cheerful. If someone doesn't grin when you first meet them, it's time to move on. What do they have to say? Imagine if I greeted you with a warm welcome. What I truly mean is this: "I'm not a fan of your appearance." That's quite impolite, and it's a bad start. So, even if you're nervous regarding the meeting you'll have with someone, when you first meet them, make sure to smile. Because this puts it on a solid foundation from the start. "Oh, talk me through it," he says. And that's the only thing he does. He says it a lot, so he goes, "Oh, no," and that's the only thing he does. Now, I believe you should have at least a half dozen. You choose from a list of tough questions. I believe it would be too evident if you used the same phrase every time. It doesn't take much, however, to keep someone talking. And that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for a 90-10 split. So we want 90% of them to talk and 10% of us to ask a question. So, if you leave a meeting with someone with the sound of your voice reverberating in your ears, then you've gone on too long. You'll have a harder time getting what you desire. You'll also have a lower chance of being liked. So, if you can, aim for a 90-10 ratio. Is there a chance that the other person may think, "They simply posed queries to me"? But they're not putting anything in themselves, are they? And I believe there is a danger. If all you do is ask, answer, ask, I believe there's a chance it'll be too much. As if it were an interrogation. As a result, I'd suggest asking a question, answering it, and then leaving a comment. Question, answer, and remark. This is where you pose a question to them. You're waiting for a response, then you add a comment to show that you're paying attention, that you've grasped the concept before moving on to the following question. So, let's say you tell them, "What do you like to do when you have free time?" And they say things like, "Oh, I'm really into golf," or "Oh, I'm really into golf," or "Oh, I'm really into golf. Recently, I've been playing a lot of golf." "Oh, sure, I've never really had it before," would be a comment. There isn't enough time for golf, although it does appear to be enjoyable. So, where do you go to play? Make a comment or ask a question. And they say, "Oh, I'm playing at that new place," or something similar. "You know that nice one, just next to Parley?" And you can say, "Oh, yeah, I've seen it," or something similar. "I've drove past it, and it appears to be rather lovely. So, how's it going?" Next question is a comment. So, just a quick remark to demonstrate that you've paid attention, and that you've comprehended. Then there's the next one. And the feedback is fantastic. Because they make you pay attention. You are required to listen, and they make you do so. Must hold off on responding until you've heard what they've said before you can make your comment. You must first, before moving on to the next one. Otherwise, if you're not careful, you'll end up in trouble. You start thinking about your next question, and you wind up asking them questions in an awful sense, to be honest. It's almost as though you're being interrogated. As a result, it should ideally have a flow to it. It would be as though we were having a conversation. That's exactly what this comment system accomplishes. It gives the impression of a discussion. They'll assume it was a pleasant conversation. About themselves, which was their favorite subject, and they won't even notice it. You have been interrogating them. So, there you have it, a question, an answer, and a comment. I strongly advise you to test this on your pals. When you're out with your friends this evening, make it a game not to say anything about yourself, but to simply ask them questions. See if you can learn everything you can about them. And don't use the word I at all. And what if someone asks, "How are the kids?" Don't go into a vomiting frenzy and leave, "Oh, yes, Timmy is doing fantastically well." Please don't do it. However, simply state, "Oh, they're okay." Is Tiny Freddy out of prison yet? How about you? Simply turn around and pose a question to them. Or if they inquire about your new car, don't start giggling about how amazing your car is. But tell them, "Yes, it's fantastic, and yes, I adore it." What about you? What are you now driving? Ask them a question on the other side. And you'll discover that it'll be a fantastic evening. They'll have a fantastic time discussing. The subject of their choice is themselves. However, you will gain access to a wealth of useful knowledge. In addition to being liked, because if you're talking about your own automobile or children, you're not gaining any new knowledge. It's a complete waste of time. However, if you're learning about theirs, that could be extremely useful information to have. They will like you more as a result. There you have it, the questioning funnel. Tonight, put it into practice. Now, let's get to the point of this video. It's a bizarre topic, to be honest, which is concerned with maintaining contact with others. Networking, meeting new people, and maintaining in touch with old ones are all important. The most successful persons, according to research, are in contact with the greatest amount of individuals possible. The more people with whom you have contact, the better. The more successful you are in life, the better. And I believe that's self-evident. Because they aren't necessarily customers. However, they're all people who could be able to assist you in some form or another. As a result, networking and staying in touch are critical. I've got a lot of them. A slew of new networking ideas. So, let's say you have to attend a party. And, you never know, it could be a unique networking event. Anything along the lines of a business brunch. However, it could simply be a social gathering. So, what are your options? The first step is to compile a list of people's names. Find out their name and keep it in mind. Even if it only entails writing it down as soon as you take a step back from them. Also, see if you can get a business card from them. After that, you can write the data down on the reverse side of their business card. So, if they're a specialist, you know. Whether it's in a subject or something else, make a list of everything you know about them on the reverse side of their business card, so that you may save it for later. Then you'll need a system for staying in touch with folks. It could be Christmas cards or emails, for instance. However, devise a method, such as a rotating card file, to do this. Having a mechanism in place to keep in touch on a regular basis with everyone on your to-do list. I genuinely have a monthly tip. I send out emails to my clients. I throw out a free email management advice every now and then. Every once and then, and it's a fantastic method to do so to maintain contact with everyone. It reaches around 12,000 people. However, everyone believes that it is unique to them. As a result, it's a means for me to stay in touch with everyone.